Chapter 1067. They actually made it over. How did they make it over? These fellows are really something. They actually made it over without saying a word. What method did they use? The surrounding people gathered around one by one. Some were thinking of ways to break the array, while others were guessing how Fengjiu and the rest had made it over. From a higher position, the mercenaries also saw the figures 100 meters away from them. Because the red figures were too dazzling, they could recognize them at a glance. Even the mercenaries were surprised to see that among so many people, it was actually those few youngsters who were the first to go over. The Golden Corps mercenaries saw Fengjiu and the rest make it over and couldn't help but grin and shake his head. These fellows are too reckless, but I can't tell that they have some ability. There are signs of nails being nailed here. Did they use ropes to make it over? On the other side, those who had already broken the array were staring at that place. Noticing that they might have made it over with the help of ropes, they were eager to give it a try. But this is a distance of 100 meters. How can the other end of the rope shoot over there? None of us have any arrows, and even if we do, we don't have the ability to shoot over 100 meters. Other than magic weapons, ordinary arrows would not be able to shoot over such a distance. Strange. Why do I feel a little weak in my head? Me too. For a moment, those people didn't have time to think of a solution and had already fallen to the ground due to breathing in the thick smoke. Some of the accompanying doctors from the aristocratic families examined them and told them that it was caused by breathing in the thick smoke. Everyone thought that it was because of the thick smoke that caused them to feel uncomfortable, but they didn't expect that it was because Fengjiu had thrown the pills into the small fire. As for the other side, Fengjiu and the rest who had already reached the boundary of the Hell Mountain Range glanced at those people, smiled, and turned to walk into the dense forest. The place where they were was not the periphery of the Hell Mountain Range, so the danger level was lower. The weeds here were taller than the ones over there, and there were no paths to walk through in the dense forest. Those paths could only be made by themselves. Be careful, Fengjiu said as he paid attention to the movements around him. She walked in the middle, with Duan Yi and Luo Fei in front, Ning Lang and Song Ming behind her, and Tunyan by her side. Because of the messy weeds, the obstruction of the branches, and the need to pay attention to the movements around them and be on guard against possible dangers, they walked rather slowly. It wasn't until 6 hours later that they walked out of the dense forest. However, at this time, the sky had already darkened. Even though the sun had not set yet, in this Hell Mountain Range, due to the cover of the mountain peaks and dense forests, the night would always be much longer than the day. We've already passed through the forest. Look, we're already at the outer ring of the Hell Mountain Range. Chapter 1068. Why does this place look like a ghost forest? Ning Lang leaned towards Duan Yi, feeling a little creeped out. He felt that the forest was so eerie that it made him uneasy. I have the same feeling too. Luo Fei nodded, feeling a little apprehensive. The trees here only had branches without leaves. Moreover, the branches stretched out in all directions like ghost claws. Other than the branches that intertwined together like a giant net, there were also some branches that formed claws at the bottom. Moreover, there were dense vines growing on these branches. These vines were thin and hung down from the branches in the air. They were also covered with dense fine hair, which was very strange. Fengjiu glanced at the forest in front of them, then said to them, "This is all the information I have. I know nothing about the inside, so I'll say it again. You must be careful." They nodded and asked, "It's getting late. Should we go in tomorrow? Or now?" Hearing this, she glanced at them and said, "Everyone is tired today, so let's rest here first. We'll leave tomorrow morning. However, don't light a fire here to attract attention." "We know," they replied and found a place to sit down and rest. "Don't wander around here. I'll scout ahead," Fengjiu instructed, then said to Tunyan, "You stay here and guard." "Oh, woo." Tunyan howled and laid down at the side. "I'll go with you," Duan Yi said and walked to Fengjiu's side. "They can rest here. I'll go with you." Fengjiu smiled when he saw the serious expression on the baby-faced Duan Yi's face. "All right, let's go. Be careful," the other three reminded them. "Got it." The two of them waved their hands, and walked toward the forest in front of them. However, as soon as they walked in, they felt that something was wrong. It was as if the branches could move. At that moment, there was a rustling sound, and a human face appeared on the tree trunk. It had eyes, a nose, and a mouth. The ghost claws formed by the surrounding branches stretched out at that moment and surrounded the two of them. Seeing this scene, Ning Lang, Luo Fei, and Song Ming were shocked. They quickly stood up and ran over, but before they could get close, Feng Jiu shouted, "Don't come over." As soon as his voice fell, there was a whoosh of air, and the branches that surrounded them were cut off and scattered on the ground. Green liquid spurted out from the branches, and when it splashed on the ground, it made sizzling sounds and corroded a hole in the ground. The human faces that appeared on the tree seemed to howl in pain, and the human faces that originally appeared shrank back into the tree and disappeared. It was as if the scene they saw before was just an illusion. Seeing this scene, Feng Jiu and Duan Yi were shocked. They quickly retreated and returned to Ning Lang and the others. "The trees in this forest have become spirits," Feng Jiu said in shock. His eyes were still filled with disbelief. This was the first time he had seen trees that had become spirits. Although he knew that the vegetation here could also become spirits, seeing it with his own eyes and imagining it was a different feeling. Chapter 1069. They retreated to their original spot to discuss. This place was so strange, so they naturally couldn't be careless. I saw that the trees grew out of human faces, and it wasn't just one or two trees, but the surrounding trees. I'm sure the entire forest is like this. Trees belong to the wood element, so I'm thinking that even if they become spirits, they should still be afraid of fire, Luo Yi said, staring at the branches that danced at them as if they were demonstrating their power. Hearing this, Song Ming nodded and said, "Other than being afraid of fire, since sharp swords can cut through them, there's nothing to be afraid of. Even if we're trapped inside, we can break through those branches. Actually, if we think about it carefully, it shouldn't be a big deal. As long as we're careful, we should be fine." Seeing this, after calming down for a while, Feng Jiu said, "I'll try again." She was the one who brought them in. Encountering such a situation, she naturally had to find a solution. They already knew that these tree spirits were afraid of swords and sabers. So did that mean they were afraid of fire? Then they had to try again. "It's already dark, so let's forget it. We'll go in together tomorrow morning," they said, worried that something might go wrong in the night. "It's fine, I know what I'm doing," she said. This time, she went in alone and didn't let them follow her. She still left Tunyin to guard them, just in case. Seeing Feng Jiu walk into the strange forest, the few of them held their breaths and watched from behind. When they saw the branches reach out like ghostly claws and attack Feng Jiu, he flipped his palm, and a flame shot up with a whoosh. The branches that reached forward couldn't dodge in time and were burned by the flame, shrinking back with a whoosh. Seeing this scene, the anxious hearts of the few people were slightly relieved. Fortunately, these tree spirits were really afraid of fire. This made things easier. As long as they each had a torch, they could pass through this forest without fighting. Feng Jiu walked inside with large strides. After about an hour, she walked back the way she came and said to Duan Yi and the others, "This area is filled with these tree spirits. I didn't see any ferocious beasts. However, I was actually able to find a stock of spirit medicine along the way. It's a bit surprising." "Spiritual medicine? What's spiritual medicine? Is it valuable?" Ning Lang hurried forward and asked when he saw him return. 100-year-old spiritual medicine is worth a bit of money outside. She smiled and took out the spiritual medicine to show them. Then she put it away. Seeing this, Ning Lang's eyes lit up, and he said, "It's a treasure land indeed. You've only been in there for about an hour, and you've already found a stock of spiritual medicine. Who knows? There might be even more as you go deeper. All right, let's eat something and take a rest." As she spoke, she walked to their side and sat down. However, at this moment, they suddenly heard a rustling sound. They were startled and quickly looked around. "What was that sound? Look, there." Ning Lang's eyes widened in shock as he stared at the mass of black objects flying towards him. He stammered, "What are those?" Why does it look like a bat? What do you mean by resembling a bat? That's clearly a bat. Okay? Duan Yi said snappily. But its eyes are red. A bat's eyes are black, right? Ning Lang swallowed his saliva and said. Chapter 1070. When the others heard this, their expressions changed. They quickly drew their swords and slashed at the black swarm of bloodbats that were attacking them. Sharp sword chi whizzed out and dispersed the large swarm of bloodbats. The sound of the bloodbats flapping their wings could be heard, and the scattered bloodbats looked even more terrifying. There were so many of them that it made their scalps tingle. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh! Ah, damn it! Why are there so many of them? Whoosh! Flames shot out and burned dozens of bloodbats. When he saw the bloodbats that were burned to death retract their wings and fall from the sky like rats, Feng Jiu's hair stood on end. It was too disgusting. Seeing the endless bloodbats surrounding them and attacking them, Duan Yi couldn't help but shout, "There are so many of them. We can't kill them all even if we want to." Then what can we do? It's the middle of the night. Are we supposed to retreat or enter the strange forest in front? Song Ming said. His heart was also in his mouth. This was serious. If they weren't careful, they could lose their lives here. Feng Jiu gritted his teeth and said, "Enter the forest. Let's use the tree spirits to trap the bloodbats and burn them." With that, he led them into the strange forest in front of them. Behind them, the bloodbats still surged forward and chased after them. "Follow closely. Don't get separated," Feng Jiu said to the people behind him as he used his flames to open a path. The tree spirits that came into contact with the flames quickly retracted their branches and dodged. "Flaming lion, come out," Duan Yi roared. With a flash of light, his flaming lion pounced out of his spirit beast space and quickly joined the battle. The chaotic, bloodthirsty bats were like the claws of ghosts, waving the branches that were attacking them. They didn't dare to relax in the slightest. Their bodies were tense, and the swords in their hands were slashing out. Only the sound of sharp sword chi coming out of the pitch-black forest could be heard. Sword scars were cut open on the ground, and chi flowed in all directions, filling the air. The bloodbats around them fell to the ground, and the smell of blood permeated the air. Many of the branches of the tree spirits had been chopped off, and they no longer dared to reach out toward them. On the contrary, the ghost claws of the tree spirits reached out and grabbed the bloodbats. Then, the tree spirits' faces appeared on the tree bodies. They opened their mouths and swallowed the bloodbats. As the number of bloodbats dwindled, the remaining ones eventually circled above their heads. They had to avoid the hooks of the tree branches. In the end, they could only flap their wings and flee. Phew, I'm so tired. Ning Lang was sweating profusely. Because of this, he leaned against a tree at the side. As soon as he made this move, without thinking, a human face instantly appeared on the tree trunk. The tree branches pressed down on Ning Lang like claws, wanting to stuff him into its mouth. This! Ning Lang was shocked. He cried out involuntarily, "Save! Save me!" The few of them were panting and trying to catch their breath, so they didn't pay attention to him. Who knew that when they heard his cry, they were so shocked that they jumped up and quickly looked toward him. They couldn't help but be stunned when they saw him. Phew! Duan Ye's flaming lion spat out a mouthful of flames, aiming directly at the mouth of the human face. The tree spirit screamed in pain. The entire tree quickly burned, and Ning Lang ran back because of this. Chapter 1071. The others were speechless. They glanced at him and scolded. "Why did you throw yourself into the mouth of that tree spirit? Do you want to die?" Ning Lang looked at them with some grievance and said, "I wasn't paying attention for a moment. When I saw that the danger was over, I relaxed and forgot that these trees eat people too." He then added, "I won't do it again." This place was indeed hell. They could lose their lives at any time due to carelessness. Even though they had personally experienced many things along the way, they still felt a little scared at this moment. Fortunately, his companions were all very strong. Otherwise, he would have been sucked dry by that bloodbat. "All right, since we're all here, let's go. Follow this path forward. We don't have a specific target anyway, so we don't need to be fast. Safety comes first, Fengjiu said and sighed softly. Yes, we know. The others responded and lit torches. They used the torches to illuminate the path inside. At the same time, the surrounding tree spirits would avoid them and not dare to attack. I saw that these trees eat bloodbats. Could it be that these tree spirits like to eat people other than bloodbats? Thinking of the scene where the tree spirit that caught him opened its mouth and tried to eat him, his heart started to race again. There are many things here that we haven't come into contact with before. Logically speaking, trees shouldn't eat people. However, these trees have already become spirits. It's very likely that they're the same type of plant as the man-eating flower. Compared to the man-eating flower that swallows a person whole, I think these tree spirits at most suck the essence of a person. After all, their mouth can't swallow a person whole. At this point, Fengjiu glanced at him and said, "Among the few of us, only you are white and chubby. You look like you have a lot of juice. You have to be careful. Not only do tree spirits eat people, but even giant flowers or ferocious beasts will probably like someone like you." Hearing this, Ning Lang's hair stood on end. He said, "Don't scare me. How am I scaring you? I'm just reminding you to prevent you from pouncing on precious spiritual herbs. You have to know that some spiritual herbs have ferocious beasts guarding them. Some might be a poisonous snake, some might be a ferocious beast, and some might even be poisonous insects. In short, even if you see a spiritual herb or something, you must make sure it's safe before approaching it." The others nodded. Among them, Luo Fei said, "Moreover, as far as I know, there are also acts of robbery. Apart from the few of us, we have to be vigilant against outsiders. We can only speak to people we meet. If there are benefits in front of us, we have to think twice about it. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. The more benefits there are, the more danger there is. There... 2. T. S. T. Chapter 1072. After they sat down, Fengjiu looked at them and asked, "Are you all hurt?" "No, my clothes were only torn. I didn't hurt my skin," Duan Yi and the others said. Not long after they finished speaking, they saw Ning Lang take off his torn clothes and put on 2 more clothes from his space. They noticed that other than the clothes he was wearing, there seemed to be a small golden vest. Thus Luo Fei asked, "Ning Lang, what's that shiny golden vest for?" Ning Lang, who was putting on his clothes, paused when he heard this. He pulled open the collar of his clothes and pointed at the innermost one. He asked, "You mean this one? My mother gave this to me on my birthday last year. She said that she asked someone to refine it especially for me. This is a treasure garment. I've been wearing it ever since I got it. She said that it can protect my life if I'm invulnerable." Speaking of this, he chuckled. "But I haven't encountered any danger in the past. I don't know if it's really invulnerable, but it's still good to wear it, just in case." Hearing this, the others couldn't help but smile. Duan Yi looked at the pair of boots on his feet, then looked at the one he was wearing underneath. He couldn't help but say, "You have a lot of treasures. Each and every one of them is a lifesaver." "That's right. My family doesn't have anything but money. With money, what can I have?" He proudly raised his chin, looking as if he was a tycoon and he was not afraid of anyone. Seeing this, everyone laughed. The whole atmosphere also eased a little because of this. It became less dignified and instead revealed a sense of relaxation and joy. "All right, you guys quickly rest. Duan Yi, the 2 of us will keep watch," Luo Fei said, indicating that they should seize the time to rest and recover their energy. Thus, the 2 of them kept watch while the others rested. In the second half of the night, Fengjiu woke up and said to the 2 of them, "You guys go and sleep for a while. I'll keep watch here." "Okay." Thus, it was Fengjiu's turn to keep watch. The night wind here was cold and gloomy, carrying with it the scent of the earth and grass. There were also ghost-like howls. Judging from the sound, it seemed to be coming from the tree spirits. Therefore, it was actually very difficult to fall asleep in such an environment. However, there were people who were able to sleep soundly and even started snoring. Songming woke up and sat with Fengjiu. He looked at Ning Lang, who was sleeping like a pig, and said with a smile, "Only he can sleep so soundly here. This guy is really broad-minded and fat." Feng Jiu chuckled. He's tired from a journey. He probably hasn't tried walking like this at home in the past, experiencing so many things in one day. Hearing this, Song Ming looked at the red-clothed Feng Jiu and asked curiously, "Actually, I don't understand why you would want to bring us to the Hell Mountain Range. You've never been here before, have you? Unknown dangers. Aren't you afraid that something will happen here? Even if he had the strength of a golden core, even if he was the ghost doctor in this Hell Mountain Range, the strength of a golden core was far from enough. Why wasn't he afraid that they would all die here and that they would never be able to leave after entering here?" Chapter 1073. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled. Since it's an experience, naturally there will be challenges. If there isn't a challenge, how can I stimulate the potential in my body? Cultivation has always been a path that defies the heavens. If you want to become strong, how can there be a smooth journey? Song Ming looked at him, his heart slightly moved. Actually, with your current status, there's no need for you to come to such a dangerous place. After all, the risk is too great. As long as you say the word, I believe there will be many strong cultivators to protect you. Not only was he a pill master, he was also an alchemist. He was also a ghost doctor who had the ability to bring the dead back to life. This kind of person, no matter where he went, would be a distinguished guest. There was no need for him to come to such a place for experience. It's better to rely on yourself than on others. Feng Jiu said and smiled. No matter how strong others are, it doesn't belong to you. Only when you are strong, that's the best. This way, even if you want to protect the people you want to protect, you have enough strength. Protect the people you want to protect? His expression was slightly startled, and he softly muttered, "The people I want to protect are no longer here. No matter how strong I am, I can't protect them." She glanced at him, knowing that he was referring to his mother, who had already passed away. Thus, she said, "You're still young. In the future, you will meet people you want to protect." Hearing this, he laughed. "What do you mean you're still young? Are you saying you're very old? You're really treating us like children." Feng Jiu curled the corner of his lips and did not reply. Indeed, the age of her two lives added together was not young. She really did treat them like children. She raised her head slightly and looked at the huge net formed by the interweaving branches above her head. She was thinking in her heart that after taking care of them for a year and settling everything, she would go to a first-class country to bring her mother home. As long as she brought her mother home and reunited with her father, she could then prepare to enter the 8 great empires and meet Mose. In a year's time, would she be able to enter the nascent soul stage? She was looking forward to this. Early in the morning, the sunlight shone into the forest. The tree spirits in the forest bathed in this warm sunlight. They actually retracted their tree claws and stood still like normal trees. Strange, why are these tree spirits different from the ones at night? As Ninglang spoke, he looked at the trees that had retracted their branches and claws. Although the branches above were still intertwined to form a large net, it looked like there was no attack power at all from below. Could he be faking it on purpose? As Luo Fei spoke, he glanced at them and tried to walk out and touch the trees. Unexpectedly, there was no reaction at all. It was as if what they saw from the evening until last night was just an illusion. Perhaps the habits of day and night are different. Feng Jiu said thoughtfully, "That's even better. Let's get out of this forest before evening, just in case something happens at night." "All right, let's go." They stomped out the fire and cleaned up the traces they left behind. Only then did they move forward, intending to get out of this strange place as soon as possible by evening. Chapter 1074. Among the branches in front, the thing that was entangled by the vines and branches seemed to be a person. "It looks like a woman," Song Ming said. "That's impossible. How could there be a woman in this place?" "I'd probably believe it if it was a female demon," Luo Fei said, thinking that it couldn't be a woman. "Whether it's a man or a woman, it's a human." "It can't be wrong," Duan Yi said, and instinctively looked at Feng Jiu. "What should we do? Should we go and take a look?" In his heart, he was thinking, there's a person hanging here. It shouldn't be a problem, right? "Help! Help!" At this moment, the person over there seemed to have woken up, calling for help in a weak voice. Judging from the voice, it really was a woman. I told you it was a woman, Song Ming said, striding over there. It's one thing if we don't see it, but now that we see it, we should at least take a look and save her, right? Seeing this, Feng Jiu raised his eyebrows, smiling faintly but not saying anything. Song Ming, aren't you afraid that it's a trap? Ning Lang shouted. Being cautious, he was worried that it was a trap. There was no one else in this place except for them, but there was such a woman hanging here, and her blood essence was not sucked dry by those tree spirits last night. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem normal. Hearing the words behind him, Song Ming stopped in his tracks and looked back. He saw that they were all standing there, and even Feng Jiu was smiling, just watching without saying anything. He couldn't help but scratch his head, looking at Feng Jiu and asking, "This shouldn't be a trap, right?" "It's okay. Save her if you want to," Feng Jiu said, raising his chin, indicating that since he wanted to save her, he didn't have to worry too much. Anyway, even if there was a trap, he would remember it. When the others heard this, they couldn't help but be stunned. "Really? It's okay. It doesn't matter if it's okay. Anyway, didn't we come here to find trouble and gain experience? All kinds of unexpected things can happen, and we can't guard against them no matter how hard we try. So sometimes we have to follow our hearts. Of course, the prerequisite is that we have the ability to deal with all kinds of changes." Hearing this, the others' eyes moved slightly. What he meant was that as long as they wanted to do something, he would not stop them. However, they had to bear the consequences and risks themselves. Song Ming looked at the woman in front of him who was crying for help. He hesitated for a moment, but still stepped forward. He took out the long sword at his waist and cut off the vines and tree claws. When the woman who was hanging fell from midair, he went forward to catch her. "Miss, are you all right?" He looked at the pale-faced woman and asked. She looked to be in her 20s. Her face was pale and her hair was messy. However, other than the fact that she was a little weak, there was nothing wrong with her. "Miss, why are you hanging here alone? Where are your companions?" Luo Fei asked with a smile on his face. "I'm a cultivator who came out with my family to train. Last night, I came out to relieve myself, but I accidentally lost my way. The torch in my hand went out, and I was caught by this tree spirit," the woman said weakly. After catching her breath, she continued, "This tree spirit left a wound on my body and sucked my essence and blood from the wound. I was so weak that I couldn't even save myself." She looked at them and said gratefully, "Thank you. Thank you for saving me." Chapter 1075. There's no one else? Could it be that they've left? The woman muttered in astonishment. When she thought of this, her face was filled with sorrow. Perhaps they've given up on me. After all, why would they come looking for me when I haven't returned for a night in a place like this? "We've already saved you. That's it. Goodbye." Song Ming helped her to the side and leaned against a tree, cupping his hands as he spoke. "You're leaving me here?" The woman seemed to be shocked by his words. She bit her lip and asked, "Can you please bring me along for a while? If you leave me here, I could die at any time. But I originally only planned to save you from the tree. I didn't think that I'd have to bring you along after saving you. This is different from what I originally thought." Song Ming waved his hand and said, "Furthermore, we're all grown men. It's not good for us to bring a woman like you along. Saving your life is already extremely good. Don't make things difficult for us." As he spoke, Song Ming looked at Feng Jiu and the others. "Let's go." The few of them raised their eyebrows and were somewhat surprised. However, they didn't say anything. Since he said to leave, then let's leave. When the woman behind saw that the few of them really turned around and left, she couldn't help but be stunned. It seemed that she didn't expect that these few youths would abandon her here after saving half of her life. "How is it? Didn't I say that you're already old? This kind of method won't work anymore." Just as Feng Jiu and the others walked a distance away, they heard a woman's mocking voice from behind. The few of them stopped in their tracks and looked back in surprise. They saw that more than 20 cultivators had suddenly leaped out from behind them. Among them, 2 or 3 were women. "It's really a trap. Song Ming rubbed his head and smiled at Feng Jiu and the others. But I've long realized that something was wrong. That's why I didn't want to bring her along. After suffering once, he was naturally more vigilant. Furthermore, they were in the Hell Mountain range. He couldn't afford to be careless. He didn't expect that when this woman saw that he didn't fall for her trick, people from the shadows would rush out just like that. There were more than 20 cultivators, and their strength ranged between mid-stage and late-stage foundation establishment. Among them, only 2 were at the Golden Core realm. The group was scattered without any pattern, and they should be itinerant cultivators. Feng Jiu glanced at those people, then said to them, "All right, these people will be your practice. If you meet anyone who has designs on us, I don't mind if you rob them of their treasures." Hearing this, Ning Lang was the most excited one. His eyes on his chubby and likable face lit up with excitement. "Really? Are we allowed to rob others in here?" Song Ming, Duan Yi, and Luo Fei glanced at Ning Lang speechlessly. Did they really think that it was so easy to snatch the people inside? Didn't he see that the other party's strength was at the middle and late foundation establishment stage, and there were even 2 Golden Core cultivators among them? Feng Jiu said those words because he wanted to give them an experience and a challenge. If they didn't handle this challenge well, they might lose their lives. That was why he said that he didn't mind snatching the other party's money and treasures. The meaning was to tempt them with benefits, letting them know that if they lost, they would lose their lives, but if they won, they would get those things. They would not risk their lives for nothing. Chapter 1076. Only Ning Lang's eyes lit up. He was so excited that he didn't realize the murderous intent. All he could think about was how many valuable things were in their Chinkoan bags. If these people had been robbing people for a living, they must have a lot of valuable treasures and elixirs. Feng Jiu also said that he didn't object to them robbing people who wanted to rob them. Did that mean that they could rob people who wanted to rob them in the future? When he thought of this, his entire body became excited. Yes, we won't provoke those who didn't provoke us, and we won't try to rob them. But those who want to rob us, as long as we can rob them, they'll be ours. As she spoke, she smiled and patted Ning Lang's shoulder. She said encouragingly, "You have to work hard. These people look like they have a lot of treasures." Hearing this, Ning Lang clenched his hands into fists. His chubby face was solemn, and his eyes shone with excitement. "Yes, don't worry. I won't let you down." When the others heard this, they couldn't help but look at Ning Lang. They reminded him, they have more people than us. Moreover, they're all in the late stage of the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. There are 2 Golden Core cultivators among them. "It's okay. Our leader is here. What are you afraid of?" Ning Lang raised his chin and looked at Feng Jiu with trust. "I won't do anything. It's up to you," Feng Jiu said. Under Ning Lang's shocked gaze, he took Tun Yun and instantly retreated to the back. He took a deep breath and sat on a tree branch to watch them. Huh? Ning Lang was dumbfounded. He was so excited that he didn't know that Feng Jiu didn't want to help. In his opinion, Feng Jiu was so powerful that even 2 Golden Core cultivators wouldn't be a match for him, let alone 2. He didn't expect that Feng Jiu didn't want to do anything. "What are you about? Didn't you hear him say that this is an experience for us?" Duan Yi patted his head in annoyance. "Don't look so silly. You'll lose your life if you make a mistake." Hearing this, Ning Lang gathered his thoughts and looked at the 20 people in front of him. He swallowed and finally realized that things were serious. Even his forehead was sweating because of his nervousness. "Let's fight then. For the sake of their Chinkoan bags, for the sake of those treasures. I'll stake it all." As soon as his voice fell, he suddenly shouted loudly. After taking out his long sword, he rushed towards the people in front of him, giving Duan Yi and the others a fright. "This lunatic! Why didn't you say anything before making a move?" The few of them gritted their teeth and raised their auras. They drew their swords and charged towards those people. Is there something wrong with their brains? When the 20 or so people heard their words, they were all stunned. They wanted to rob them with just these few people? Furthermore, one of them didn't intend to make a move. Could it be that they couldn't see that their strength was above theirs? Wasn't this just courting death? Kill, you reckless fool. Under the command of a golden core cultivator, more than 20 rogue cultivators instantly released their killing intent and rushed forward with their swords in hand. Even the previously weak woman charged forward with her sword after taking the medicine. Chapter 1077. Saber light and sword shadows filled the air with murderous intent. The suppressive aura of a Foundation establishment cultivator surged out along with the battle, forming a low pressure in the air. The fierce sword chi and the sharp saber chi collided and refracted, creating banging sounds. The surrounding trees were cut down by the sword chi, and liquid dripped on the ground. As their battle became more and more intense, the smell of blood also permeated the air. Whoosh! Bang bang! A loose cultivator in the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm swung his sword fiercely. The blade that was infused with a strong aura of spiritual power surged with a visible airflow. The biting cold sword chi attacked with a whoosh, slashing towards Song Ming at a speed that was too fast for the ears to cover. Feeling a sense of danger and killing intent, Song Ming looked in that direction. When he saw it, his heart skipped a beat. Unable to block it in time, he could only quickly leap to the side to avoid it. However, the opponent's speed was extremely fast. Even though he avoided the fatal blow, he was still sent flying by the powerful airflow, falling several meters away. Hiss! He sucked in a breath of air and rolled on the ground. The pain on his body made him look down. He saw that his body had been slashed by the sword chi with countless deep and shallow wounds. Blood seeped out from the wounds, and he was in so much pain that he opened his mouth and gritted his teeth as he stared at the loose cultivator who was looking at him with contempt. Bah! He spat out the blood in his mouth, wiped the corner of his mouth, and walked forward again with his sword. Fortunately, I dodged quickly. Otherwise, I would have been cut in half. Holding the sword, his pace went from slow to fast. One of his hands moved slightly, as if there was something extra on his arm. The killing intent on his body was aroused. You think I'm easy to bully, right? After I kill you, you'll know that I'm not easy to bully. Brat, you're courting death. Another cultivator brandished his sword and stepped forward. However, before he could get close to Song Ming, he saw him raise his left hand. With a whoosh, a cold light suddenly shot out. It was a sleeve arrow that directly shot out, piercing the cultivator's heart and piercing the other person behind him. Yes, the cultivator and the person behind him didn't expect to be hit by the arrow. Their bodies stiffened and they fell back. At this moment, the arrow that shot into the chest of the cultivator flew back and automatically stuck itself to Song Ming's sleeve arrow. F***CK. Why didn't you use this treasure earlier? Do you have to wait until someone kills you before you use it? Ning Lang turned around and glared at them. He wasn't as strong as the others, but he relied on the many treasures on him to kill them while dodging. Because of this, he was the one who suffered the least injuries. Bang! Luo Fei was sent flying by another loose cultivator when he was attacking one of them. He staggered back a few steps, and after stabilizing himself, he rubbed his stomach and glared angrily. He cursed angrily in his heart. You want to bully us with your numbers? Good. Then don't blame me for playing dirty. He quickly retreated to Ning Lang's side, shook out a strange mask from the space, and handed it to him. Put on. Ning Lang took a look at it and asked, What can this do? To prevent people from hitting my face? Just put on. Don't ask so much nonsense. Anyway, it won't hurt you, Luo Fei said angrily. He took out a few more masks and threw them to Song Ming and Duanyi. In the end, he put one on himself and took out something from the space. Chapter 1078. What was this Luo Fei trying to do? Just as she was thinking, she heard him shout, I'm going to play dirty. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw something the size of a fist into the surroundings. When that thing landed on the ground, it dispersed with a bang, and a reddish-yellow smoke filled the air. Even from where she was, she felt that it was suffocating and dazzling. Immediately, she leaped up and changed direction, coming to a place with the wind. Cough, cough, cough. What the hell is that? Hiss, I can't open my eyes. Damn it. Look carefully before you cut. Don't cut your own people. Okay. For a moment, in the dispersed smoke, those itinerant cultivators could not open their eyes. Their throats itched as they coughed, unable to fight. Even if they wanted to open their eyes to take a look, once they opened their eyes, they felt a dazzling sensation, and even tears flowed down uncontrollably. Damn stinky brat. He actually dares to play dirty in broad daylight. Some itinerant cultivators cursed angrily as they retreated. In a situation where they could not open their eyes, and even breathing was a problem, it was really not suitable to fight, especially when they could not see, but they could hear muffled groans and the smell of blood in the air. It was very likely that their people were killed. This battle was originally bullying with numbers, so the two Golden Core cultivators did not make a move. In their opinion, it would be very easy for more than 20 Foundation establishment cultivators to take down those few youths. Who would have thought that they would see their people fall one by one? And even though those youths also suffered many injuries, none of them were fatal. Seeing this scene, the two men's faces turned gloomy. They had been standing far away and didn't go forward. At this time, the smoke couldn't hurt them. Seeing their people fall one by one, the two men's cold eyes flashed and stared at the massed people in the fog. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sound of the hidden weapons was covered by the sword and saber. If one did not listen carefully, they would not have noticed it at all. When Fengjiu, who was sitting on the tree branch, saw the two Golden Core cultivators shoot out two hidden weapons, she raised her eyebrows slightly and also shot out the silver needles in her hand. Clang! Clang! The silver needles struck down the two concealed weapons, producing two soft clanging sounds. When the two Jindan cultivators saw that their hidden weapons had been shot down, their gloomy gazes also landed on the red figures sitting on the tree branch. In the next moment, one of them took a deep breath and grabbed at the air with his claw, forming a claw shape. With a fierce air current, he charged directly at Fengjiu. Fengjiu did not move from her seat. Her fingers were twirling as she played with the silver needles between her fingers. Traces of cold light refracted from the needles. However, before she could make a move, she heard a stern shout. Your opponent is me. Duan Yi raised his chi and sword into the air. The sharp sword in his hand shot out a sharp sword light towards the Gold Core stage cultivator. Oomph. You overestimate yourself. The Gold Core cultivator coldly snorted. The claw that was heading towards Fengjiu turned and attacked Duan Yi. The air current in the claw was as sharp as a knife. He actually blocked Duan Yi's sword with his bare hand, and his other hand suddenly grabbed toward his throat. Killing intent instantly spread out, and the aura of death enveloped Duan Yi. The terrifying pressure of a Gold Core cultivator directly enveloped him. Under this pressure, Duan Yi's body became sluggish and his speed slowed down. I'll send you to hell. Chapter 1079. Duan Yi didn't resist at all and was sucked forward as if he was being controlled. When he saw that the man's claw-like hand was about to grab his throat, his eyes flashed, and he let out a low shout in the next moment. Flywheel chop. The 8-star flywheel magic tool appeared in his hand with a whoosh. Following his command, the 8-star flywheel flew out from his hand and chopped towards the Golden Core cultivator in front of him. The Golden Core cultivator didn't expect that he would be able to counterattack in such a situation. When he saw the flying wheel that was as sharp as a blade flying towards him, his expression changed, and he quickly withdrew his hand and retreated. However, the 8-star flywheel was a magic tool. Following Duan Yi's will, it chased after him and chopped out a sharp blade chi at lightning speed. This, as the Golden Core cultivator retreated, his robes were torn apart by the burst of chi and hung on his body like an open crotch. Just as he was retreating in a sorry state, the flywheel chopped out another chi and cut a deep wound on his body. At the same time, the Golden Core cultivator was forced to take out his sword to block. However, how could his sword compare to Duan Yi's magic tool? With a clang and a crack, the golden core cultivator's sword collided with the 8-star flywheel. When the two weapons collided, the sword broke and the 8-star flywheel directly cut into the golden core cultivator's forehead. It was so fast that the golden core cultivator behind him didn't have time to save him. Hiss! How is this possible? The gold core cultivator sucked in a cold breath in horror. He watched as the gold core loose cultivator was killed by Duan Yi. He watched as the 8-star flywheel cut into the gold core loose cultivator's forehead. The flywheel was stuck in his flesh, and only a trace of blood dripped out from the bottom of the flywheel. As for the golden core loose cultivator, perhaps he didn't expect to die at the hands of a Foundation establishment cultivator. Even in death, his eyes were wide open and filled with fear and unwillingness. Return. Duan Yi shouted, and the flywheel stuck in the golden core cultivator's forehead returned to his hand with a whoosh. The golden core loose cultivator also fell down and stopped breathing. On the tree, Fengjiu revealed a satisfied expression and secretly nodded when she saw this scene. Although Duan Yi had a baby face, his strength could be said to be the strongest among the four of them. His attacks were decisive and swift, clean and unexpected. She wasn't surprised that he could kill the golden core cultivator. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment and then shifted to the people in front of them. She saw that it was a chaotic battle, and the loose cultivators in the smoke were falling one by one. Song Ming and the others were not much better off. They were all covered in wounds of various sizes. Even Ning Lang's arm had been slashed several times by a sword chi in the chaotic battle. Blood seeped out, causing him to curse furiously. He was so angry that he directly charged forward and knocked one of the independent cultivators away. "I'll fight it out with you." With a furious roar, his strength was stimulated. When he knocked the first loose cultivator into one or two others, he fiercely clenched his hands in a fist and clenched his teeth as he swung his fist with all his might. Chapter 1080. Bang! A heavy sound was heard. He punched out with both fists, and there was a spiritual aura visible to the naked eye. This spiritual aura hit the back when he punched out from the first person to the last person. The first rogue cultivator merely bent his waist and groaned, but the second and third rogue cultivators screamed with pale faces. Especially the last rogue cultivator, he spat out a mouthful of blood from his throat. His entire body flew out and crashed heavily into a tree. Bang! Bang bang! A few sounds of people falling to the ground were heard one after another. Apart from the first two who could barely stand up, the last person couldn't even scream after vomiting blood. It was as if he couldn't catch his breath. His internal organs were in great pain, and he curled up on the ground until he couldn't bear the heart-wrenching pain and fainted. "Hiss! Little fatty, you can do it." Luo Fei's eyes lit up, and he said with some shock, "You've actually learned 99% of your family's martial art. Hitting the cow through a mountain?" Ning Lang exhaled softly, withdrew his hand, and turned to glare at Luo Fei. "I told you not to call me little fatty. I'm now in the growth stage, and I'll lose weight in the future." "Okay, continue. Take advantage of their confusion and take their lives." Song Ming shouted, and his figure rushed out again. The sleeve arrow in his hand was also shot out with the help of the sword in his right hand. On the other side of the tree, Fengjiu, who saw this scene, exhaled softly. Although these four people were in their teens, each of them had their own life-saving skills. She was very satisfied to see their fighting strength today. The remaining golden core rogue cultivator saw that the situation was not good, and he already had the intention to escape. Seeing how ruthless these youths were, and how they had all kinds of combat skills and magic tools, he already knew that it was impossible to kill them and take their things. Especially when there were only a few of them left, they couldn't stay any longer. Therefore, he retreated step by step, wanting to escape. However, the moment he turned around to escape, he heard a low roar, followed by a white shadow. A small pet beast actually blocked his way like a fierce tiger, and let out a low roar. "Chi!" The rogue cultivator sneered and stared darkly at the pet beast whose fur was standing up in an attacking posture. He smiled coldly and said, "What?" Even you think I'm easy to bully? You want to block my way? Why don't you take a look at yourself first? As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his sleeves. A strong surge of spiritual power gushed out, trying to sweep away the little white pet on the ground. However, as soon as he moved, the little pet jumped up gently, showing its sharp claws and teeth, and pounced on him. A white light flashed in front of his eyes, and before he could see it clearly, he felt a burning pain on his face. "Ah!" He cried out in alarm. His heart trembled as he quickly retreated. He raised his hand and carefully touched it. When he saw the blood on his hand, he was shocked. Chapter 1081. Why hasn't that young man made a move yet? Is his strength really only at the foundation establishment stage? And that little beast, questions arose in his heart, especially when he saw the red-clothed young man's confidence. He had a bad feeling, and that feeling became even stronger when he saw the golden core cultivator get killed. At this moment, he retreated. Seeing the little beast blocking his way, he did not hesitate to use all the strength in his body to explode with the powerful aura of a golden core cultivator. He turned around and fled in another direction. He was not fighting, but fleeing. He used all the strength in his body to flee for his life. Fengjiu and Tunyan were stunned by his sudden turnaround and flee. They thought that he was going to fight, but who would have thought that he would turn around and flee? In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. It could be said that at this moment, he was only using his golden core cultivation to flee for his life. Seeing this, she was stunned for a moment. She rubbed her chin and glanced in that direction, then ignored it. Forget it, let him flee. He's just a fish that slipped through the net. Therefore, she turned her gaze and looked in front of her. She raised her eyebrows slightly. After a battle, the last few loose cultivators had been killed by a few people. At this moment, Luo Fei and the others were sitting on the ground to rest after the last loose cultivator fell, panting. Ning Lang, on the other hand, was rummaging through the corpses excitedly. These guys must have robbed a lot of people. Look at these Chinquan bags. There are a lot of things in them, and each person can't even take one. Ning Lang said excitedly as he searched. Not long after, he was holding more than 20 Chinquan bags in his arms. Fengjiu walked over and glanced at the injuries on the others. She saw that they all had different degrees of injuries. Only Ning Lang only had a few small wounds on his arms. Seeing that he did not care about the injuries on his body and was still excitedly picking up the swords and sabers, she could not help but rub her forehead. Ning Lang, just take the valuable ones. Those sabers and swords are worthless. Don't pick them up. This guy really did not let go of anything. Did he not see how much those ordinary sabers and sword were worth? Don't want it? He was already holding several swords and sabers in his arms. After hearing Fengjiu's words, he thought for a moment and threw them back to the ground. All right, if you don't want them, then don't. In any case, there will be more in the future. I'll just take these Chinquan pouches so that I won't have too many things in the future. Hearing his words, the corners of the others' mouths twitched, and they all shook their heads. Fengjiu looked around and said, "The smell of blood is heavy here. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Find a place to treat your wounds." "All right." The few of them replied. They supported each other as they stood up and walked forward together. They had to leave this place first. When they reached a place where there was no smell of blood, they sat on the grass and began to treat their wounds. See? Is it because I'm smarter? I'm also wearing a lot of clothes. Moreover, I have a vest and a treasure robe. Although my strength is not as good as yours, I'm the one with the lightest injuries. Ha ha ha. Ning Lang smiled proudly. After bandaging his wounds, he took out the contents of the Chinquan pouch and divided them into 5 portions. All right, one for each of us. Chapter 1082. They put everything away. As they rested, they took out food from the space to eat while talking about their next plans. All right, look at this. After swallowing the food in his mouth, Ning Lang took out a folded piece of paper from his bosom. I found this on the Golden Core individual cultivator. It looks like a map. I took a look at it earlier. It seems to be the map of this place. Hearing this, Fengjiu took it and opened it to look. The others came over and sat around them to look. They saw that there were some markings on it. Some places on the map were indeed the same as the ones they had walked through. It's the place inside. However, this map is not complete. It should have been drawn by some people who had walked through it. Look, we are now in a forest of trees. Look at the markings on this place. As long as we walk east, we can walk out of this area in less than a day. This place is highlighted. It's also a large area, more than 10 times the size of this forest. However, this place should not be finished yet. It takes up almost an entire map before it's finished. You can imagine how huge this Hell Mountain range is. With the strength of a golden core, how could he have walked through these places? In my opinion, this map should have been obtained by the itinerant cultivator from somewhere else. As Ninglang spoke, he looked at Fengjiu and asked, "There are markings on it, and there are even drawings of ferocious beasts. It might be even more dangerous than where we are now. Are you afraid?" Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and looked at him. Hearing this, Ninglang straightened his back. Afraid? How is that possible? I won't be afraid. Even if I can't beat him, I can still escape. You're so useless. Duanyi snorted and glanced at him. Songming laughed when he heard this and joked, "I think you'll definitely be reluctant to leave after going in. The more dangerous it is, the more valuable things there are. Maybe you'll be able to pick a precious spiritual medicine or something. That's all money. Are you willing to leave? I don't believe it." "Heh, I'm not willing to." Ninglang grinned and looked at Luo Fei again. He asked, "What were those things you threw out earlier? And those masks, were they made by you too?" In the past, they were used to prank people. In fact, they were only effective on Foundation establishment cultivators. They didn't have much effect on Golden Core cultivators. As Luo Fei spoke, he drank a mouthful of water to moisten his throat. Seeing Fengjiu staring at the map, he said, "Are there treasures on it? Why are you looking so serious?" "Treasures? Is there?" Ninglang's eyes. Fengjiu rolled her eyes at them and said, "How could there be treasures here? I'm just looking around. There's an immortal cave marked here. I'm thinking of setting up an array formation and enchantment here after we reach this area. Then I'll refine pills inside. You guys can also move around in this area. Familiarize yourself with this area and improve your strength. Raise his strength in this place." Song Ming and Duanyi looked around and asked, "This should be the outer area. Shouldn't we go in further?" Fengjiu shook his head. "We can't go any further. We can only stay in this area. Look, there are marks on the map. This area is classified as an area, and the danger level is different from this side. With your Foundation establishment strength, you can only move around in this area." Chapter 1083. Hearing this, the four of them were stunned and cried out in surprise. Enter the Golden Core realm in a year? How is that possible? That's right. It's not easy to advance after the Foundation establishment stage. Forget about those in the late Foundation establishment stage. It's already considered fast to enter the Golden Core stage in 10 years. You want us to enter the Golden Core stage in 1 year? How is it possible to cultivate at such a speed? She glanced at them and said, "How do you know it's impossible without trying? However, before that, you should first stabilize your foundation." She put away the map and said, "Let's go while it's still early. We need to get out of this forest before it gets dark." All right. They packed up and continued to walk towards the east. It was fine during the day, but at night, the tree spirits in the forest would come out to cause trouble again, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. With the map in hand and the fact that it was daytime, they didn't encounter any obstacles or dangers on the way. Therefore, they sped through the forest. In the evening, when the sky gradually darkened, they walked out of the forest of tree spirits. When they looked back, the trees seemed to come alive when night fell. Their branches stretched out in midair and emitted strange low howls. "Phew, we're finally out." Ninglang exhaled softly and said to them, "Let's find a place to sit for a while. We haven't rested much along the way, so we're a little tired from panting." Duanyi looked around and pointed at a nearby place. "There's a big rock over there. Let's go there and rest for a while. All right. The few of them nodded and walked towards a large rock not far away. Fengjiu took out the map and looked at it, identifying the direction of the cave residence. As he looked, he saw Tun Yun sniffing at the rock Ning Lang, and the others were sitting on from the corner of his eye, as if he was confirming something. He asked, Tun Yun, what's wrong? What do you mean, what's wrong? What's wrong? Luo Fei asked and took out a fruit to eat as he said, This is the border between two forests. It's very peaceful. We just sat down to rest. Don't be too nervous. Come here quickly, I still have fruit. Luo Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a rock, was eating a fruit and waving at Fengjiu. Before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly jumped up and cried out in surprise. Duan Yi and the others who were also sitting on the rock were leaning against the side. Therefore, when the rock suddenly moved, they quickly bounced away. Only Luo Fei was sitting on the rock with a dumbfounded look on his face. Roar! Devouring Cloud roared and flashed its sharp claws. It opened its mouth and was about to bite the rock when the rock suddenly rose with a whoosh, revealing a head and 4 legs. It was a beast with the same skin as a rock. How could it be a rock? At this moment, the stone beast seemed to be frightened. After standing up, it glanced at them and was frightened by the cloud-devouring beast. It actually broke into a run. On its back, Luo Fei, who had yet to react, was also sitting on its back as it fled into the forest. What's going on? What's going on? Everyone was stunned. In the blink of an eye, they saw Luo Fei being carried into the forest by the stone beast that they had never seen before. They heard his startled cries, which grew louder and quieter until they could no longer see him. Only then did they regain their senses. Chapter 1084. The few of them quickly dashed out. Fengjiu's Tun Yun was at the front, followed closely by Fengjiu, followed by Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Songming. Who would have thought that the big rock was actually a beast? It was a beast that looked exactly the same as a big rock. Its hard skin and stone-colored hide were so realistic that no one would have thought that it was a beast instead of a rock. It could only be said that the Hell Mountain range was too strange. Even the beasts here were of a species that they had never seen before. Furthermore, they were adept at camouflage. They really could not relax for even a moment. On the other side, Luo Fei, who had been crouched down by the rock beast, was running wildly. Because he was running too quickly, he went from sitting to lying on his stomach. His legs were tightly clamped around the rock beast's body, and his hands were clasped tightly together. Due to the cover of the trees, the wind was so strong that he could not open his eyes. Hence, he could not see the path in front of him clearly. He could not find a good time to jump down. Until he lowered his head and adjusted the chi in his body to balance his body, he saw a fallen tree branch in front of him. Only then did he prepare to jump out and grab the tree branch to reduce the impact of the fall. After making up his mind, he propped himself up and half-squatted. When the distance between them was about right, he jumped with all his might, grabbed the branch, and spun around. He hung on the branch and swung down before falling onto the grass below. He clenched his teeth in pain when he bumped into the wounds on his body. After a while, he sat up and saw Tun Yun, Fengjiu, and the others chasing after him. Before long, they were in front of him. How are you? Are you all right? Fengjiu went forward to help him up. Seeing that blood was seeping out of his bandaged wound, he helped him to sit down at the side. I'll help you take apart the bandages and apply medicine again. Luo Fei took a deep breath and frowned as Fengjiu helped him to sit under a tree. He said, Not only is this place dangerous, even the beasts are extremely strange. A rock is actually a rock beast in disguise. It's too scary. Hearing this, Fengjiu could not help but smile. That's why we have to be careful. This place is indeed very dangerous. As she spoke, she re-bandaged his bleeding wound. At this moment, the few people behind them caught up. Phew! Luo Fei, are you all right? They came to his side and saw that Fengjiu was re-bandaging his wound. They looked around. Where's the rock? Did it run away? It ran away, Luo Fei responded. He looked at them and then looked around. We actually came in like this. The sun is going down. The forest at night is not peaceful, especially in places where there are fierce beasts. We have to be even more careful. Don't worry, we'll keep watch. The few of them said as they stood guard in the surroundings. After Luo Fei, he said, let's make a fire. Lights this way, the light will be brighter. Even if there are ferocious beasts, we will be able to see them clearly. In this place, hiding is not the solution. Most of the time, we will still have to fight. The few of them looked at each other and nodded. Only one person was left to keep watch. Ning Lang and Song Ming went around to pick up some branches and came back. They lit a fire at the place where Luo Fei and Feng Jiao were sitting, illuminating the gradually darkening light. Chapter 1085. Feng Jiao smiled. Battles are inevitable in this place, and the best way to improve your strength is to fight. You can't avoid a battle. If you really encounter one, then fight with your strength. As long as you work together, there shouldn't be any danger in this area. Hearing this, the few of them looked at each other and nodded in agreement. They didn't say anything else. The few of them rested by the fire. As the night deepened, the low howls of ferocious beasts could be heard faintly from their surroundings. Here in this pitch-black place, the howls of ferocious beasts made them not dare to relax and rest even if they wanted to. Rustle. Suddenly, the leaves in the forest rustled despite the absence of wind. When Song Ming and Ning Lang, who were on night watch, heard the sound, they couldn't help but look at each other. There seems to be something. I'll go take a look. As Song Ming spoke, he asked Ning Lang to stay and keep an eye on the surroundings while he walked towards the source of the sound. Behind them, by the fire, Tun Yun, who was lying next to Feng Jiao, straightened his body to take a look, then lay back down. Feng Jiao was still resting with his eyes closed, as if he was in a deep sleep and didn't notice anything. Ning Lang thought about it. Whatever Feng Jiao asked him to do was the same. Moreover, he was in the same group as Song Ming. Since Song Ming was going to scout ahead, it was better for him to follow and take a look as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find anyone to help him if something happened. Thus, after making up his mind, he quietly walked forward. Song Ming, who was walking towards the source of the rustling sound, quietly came to the darkness ahead. When he saw a pair of ghostly green eyes flickering with a ferocious light like willow, the wisps in the night, he almost cried out in alarm. He covered his mouth with one hand and retreated step by step. He only felt his hair stand on end. If one were to count the pairs of green eyes in the front, there would be at least 20 of them. Furthermore, looking at their size, they were extraordinarily large. Ning Lang, who was following behind him, saw him bending over and retreating. He couldn't help but grin and step forward to pat him on the shoulder. Song Ming, what are you doing? Wow! Song Ming, who was originally covering his mouth, jumped up and instinctively cried out in surprise. This movement and cry of surprise naturally attracted the attention of those pairs of dark green eyes. In an instant, those 20 pairs of ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes looked towards where the two of them were. Damn it! What are you doing? He cursed angrily and turned around to glare at him. If he could fight, he really wanted to beat him up right now. I was worried that something had happened to you, so I came over to check on you. What happened to you? Ning Lang didn't understand. He didn't pat his shoulder too hard, and his voice wasn't loud either. Why did he look like he was frightened? Roar! Hearing the wolf howl behind him, Song Ming immediately pulled him and ran. What do you mean, what happened? There are wolves. Giant wolf. Run. As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Lang, who hadn't reacted yet, was also dragged back. Chapter 1086. When the two people who were sleeping heard this, they quickly jumped up. They were no longer sleepy. When they saw Feng Jiao sitting on the tree with Tun Yun in his arms and looking at them, they were startled. Then, a strange expression appeared on their faces. They asked, "You don't want us to practice again, do you?" He said that he brought them here to improve their strength through actual combat. Since there was an opportunity for actual combat, he naturally would not let it go. However, from the moment they entered until now, Their journey had not been peaceful. It was not easy for them to rest for a while. Could it be that they still had a fight now? Fengjiu looked at the dark sky and said, "It's late at night. After this battle, the sun will probably rise. Since we rested for a while, what's the harm in fighting again?" She looked ahead and said, "I looked. There are about 22 wolves in the pack. They are all 9th level beasts. As for the Wolf King, it hasn't come over. It's standing at a higher place and howling. With the strength of the 4 of you, you can fight it. Ah, the wolves are coming. Run." As they spoke, Ninglang's sharp voice rang out. In the blink of an eye, he dragged Song Ming to the front of the group. Seeing that they were still standing there in a daze, he hurriedly said, "What are you still standing there for? Run quickly. There are wolves behind them. There are more than 20 of them, and each of them is more than a meter tall. It's too scary. Run, run." As soon as he finished speaking, he planned to leave again. However, he saw Song Ming, who had shaken him off, gasp for breath. After glaring at him, he looked at Fengjiu on the tree and the 2 people beside the fire. He asked, "What are you talking about? Don't tell me you want to fight?" "You guessed it." As Duan Yi and Luo Fei spoke, they felt that the wolves behind Song Ming and the others were approaching. One of them took out the 8-star flywheel, while the other took out a long sword. The spiritual energy in their bodies surged as they prepared to fight. Seeing this, Song Ming did not say much. He only gritted his teeth and said, "Let's fight." These beasts have large beast crystals on their foreheads. He took out a saber. It was a saber that was slightly shorter than a sword and longer than a dagger. It was 3 fingers wide. The sharp edge of the saber was suffused with a bloodthirsty, cold light. As the spiritual power in his hand surged, a fierce air current whistled out. When Ninglang saw that they were all in their stances, it seemed that they couldn't escape from this battle. Thus, he swallowed and said, "All right then, let's fight then, for the sake of the beast crystal." He took out a dagger and held it in his hand as he stared nervously at the area behind him. Fengjiu looked at them from the tree and smiled. "Don't worry. If there's really a life-threatening danger, I'll save you." As long as their lives were not in danger, she would let them handle it themselves. Only in this way could they become more confident in the coming days. With his words, they no longer hesitated. Rather than being passive, they might as well take the initiative to attack. Therefore, when they saw the rank 9 giant wolf charging at them with its sharp claws, their spiritual auras surged and they instantly attacked. The swords in their hands were filled with murderous intent as they attacked the ferocious beast. A wolf's howl rang out. The howl contained the pressure of a holy beast and echoed in the night. The wolves in the forest seemed to be responding to the wolf as they howled one by one. For a moment, the howls of the wolves were different in pitch. Chapter 1087. Unlike the level 9 wolves under the tree, the wolf at the top was a wolf king, a sacred beast. Its figure was even stronger than the level 9 wolves that Duan Yi and the others were fighting. Its fur was also different from the gray wolves below. It was a snow-white color, as bright as snow. Especially under the moonlight, it emitted a snow-white halo, extremely beautiful and dazzling. The level of a sacred beast was about the same. However, her contracted beast was the fire phoenix, her beast was the cloud-devouring beast, and her mount was Lao Bai. Hence, she still had the silly Dahe to guard the door. Hence, she really didn't need a contracted beast. However, her eyes flickered as she made up her mind. She didn't need it anymore. However, Duan Yi was the only one in Ninglang's group who had a flame lion. The other 3 didn't have any contracted beasts either. Since she had brought them here to train, she could give them a chance. As for whether they could tame and contract this snow wolf, that would depend on themselves. Suddenly, sharp and cold claws grabbed at her from below. She looked back indifferently and glanced at the level 9 ferocious beast that was pouncing at her. A cold light flashed across her clear eyes at this moment, and the pressure of an ancient divine beast shot out from her eyes. Oh! The level 9 ferocious wolf howled in horror and fell from the sky. Its throat was slashed by the 8 stars flywheel in Duan Ye's hand. Fresh blood splashed out, and the thick smell of blood and mournful howls spread out. The smell of the wolf's blood stimulated the other wolves, and they howled one after another. Their battle strength became even more ferocious. Hiss, gasps, and groans of pain could be heard from the mouths of the people below. They were already injured, and now they were even more injured. Under the siege of more than 20 level 9 ferocious wolves, their bodies were full of wounds caused by the sharp claws. Fengjiu looked at the corpses of the level 9 ferocious beasts on the ground. Seeing that they were becoming more and more familiar with the battle, he said, "There's a wolf king high up there, other than Duan Yi. Who among the three of you dares to tame it?" "What? Wolf king? If we're alone, how can we find the wolf king? If these are already so difficult to deal with, wouldn't the wolf king be even more powerful?" Ning Lang shouted. At this moment, he was crouching on the back of a level 9 ferocious wolf. His legs were clamped tightly around the wolf's body. He held a dagger in his hand and stabbed it viciously at the back of the wolf's neck. With a whoosh, the dagger pierced into the back of the wolf's neck. The wolf howled and fell forward on its knees. Its head hung down and its body twitched faintly. As Ning Lang pulled out the dagger, a column of blood splattered out. Ning Lang, who could not dodge in time, had his face splattered with blood. He spat twice and wiped his face with his hand. He felt a warm sensation on his face and couldn't help but feel disgusted. His face was covered in blood. How disgusting. I can't tame them now either. I'm about to collapse from dealing with them. Luo Fei said. His injuries weren't light to begin with, and when his wounds were torn open, he had to bandage them again. To be able to fight like this while being injured, fighting these rank 9 wolves was already his limit. If he recklessly challenged the Wolf King to tame it, then it was very likely that he would end up as a snack in the Wolf King's stomach. Chapter 1088. Hearing this, Fengjiu's gaze swept past the other two. Seeing that they were the same, he nodded. All right then. Originally, he thought that one of them could take the opportunity to tame a sacred beast, but from the looks of it, they didn't have the intention and battle strength to do so. Although he could tame the Wolf King for them first, it was best to tame it himself as a contracted beast, otherwise, the contracted beast wouldn't only submit to him. The Wolf King howled from high up. The wolves below retreated as quickly as they came. As the wolf pack dispersed, the few of them heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the corpses of the wolves on the ground, they didn't say anything for a long time. After only killing a few wolves, their physical strength couldn't keep up. The new injuries and old injuries caused them to grit their teeth in pain. If the wolves hadn't retreated, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. Seeing the few of them holding onto the tree and panting, Fengjiu's gaze flickered. This kind of physical strength wasn't enough. Although the old injuries on their bodies hadn't healed, those injuries weren't too serious, and they were already like this after being surrounded by the wolves for a short while. It seemed that before that, they still had to increase their physical strength. Ning Lang dug out a few beast crystals and gave them to Fengjiu, who jumped down from the tree. These are the beast crystals of those wolves. Fengjiu took a look at them and said, These are wind attribute beast crystals. They can help wind attribute cultivators cultivate. Those of you with the wind attribute can distribute them. As he spoke, he passed them to Ning Lang and said, Let's go. Let's find the cave abode on the map. The few of them saw that he was walking in front and didn't ask about their injuries. They couldn't help but look at each other and follow behind him. In their hearts, they were thinking, why does he seem to be unhappy? Could it be that he wasn't satisfied with their performance? The few of them didn't stop walking behind him, perhaps because Tun Yun, who walked in front, released the pressure of a divine beast. Some ferocious beasts sensed the pressure of a divine beast and quickly avoided it along the way. Thus, the few of them didn't encounter any danger along the way until the sky gradually brightened. Fengjiu, who was walking in front, took out the map and looked at it, walked forward for a while, then turned around to look at the few of them behind him. The cave on the map is a cave abode under the mountain in front. It takes about 2 hours to get there from here. Let's speed up. All right, The few of them didn't dare to say more. Perhaps they realized that Fengjiu's disappointed that no one went to tame the Wolf King last night, so they did whatever he said along the way. Around 7 o'clock, the group arrived at the foot of the mountain. Sure enough, they saw a cave that was entwined by vines, almost to the point where they couldn't see the entrance. "It's here." Fengjiu stepped forward to take a look. She raised her hand, and a wind blade slashed out. The vines that were covering the entrance of the cave were cut off, revealing the original cave entrance. She walked in to take a look. It was just a cave. The only difference was that it seemed to have been inhabited before. Other than a stone bed, there was a stone table. The place wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. She walked out and said to the few of them, "Rest here for a while. Treat your injuries. Don't run around. Just wait here for me to come back." As she spoke, she left Tunyon behind and walked out by herself. Chapter 1089. I'm going to take a walk around. You guys rest. As she spoke, she walked out without looking back. When they saw the red figure walk into the forest, they looked around and sat down at the entrance of the cave. Ninglang scratched his head and said, "Why do I feel like he's angry?" "I don't think he's angry. He's disappointed." Duanyi lowered his head and began to treat his wounds. When they heard this, they fell silent. For a moment, they did not know what to say. They could only bandage their wounds and sit at the entrance of the cave to wait for Fengjiu to return. However, they waited until noon, and there was still no sign of him. Could something have happened to him? Why haven't we seen him since we left in the morning? Yeah, didn't he say that he was going to take a walk? It's been half a day. Should we go and look for him? He told us not to run around. If we don't see him when we go out to look for him, he'll probably be really angry when he returns. The four of them spoke one after another. In the end, their gazes simultaneously landed on Tun Yun, who was lying in the cave. After a pause, Song Ming shouted, "Tun Yun, will your master be all right? Do you want to go out and take a look?" Tun Yun glanced at the few of them and closed his eyes, ignoring them. When they saw that they were ignored, the four of them could not help but look away in embarrassment. They sat at the entrance of the cave and took out food to eat as they waited for Fengjiu to return. "He's the strongest among us. He should be fine. Furthermore, if he was in danger, Tun Yun would not stay here." When they heard Duan Ye's words, they nodded in agreement. After another 2 hours, they finally saw the familiar red figure walking over from nearby. When they saw this, they smiled happily. "Look, Fengjiu is back." They went up to him and asked, "Where have you been? Why were you gone for so long? We were all worried that something had happened to you." Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at them, then said, "I've walked around this area and finally set up an isolation barrier and formation 200 meters away from here. From now on, with this cave as the center, there will be barriers and formations 200 meters away from here. During this period of time, if I don't tell you to go out, don't go out." With that, she walked into the cave and said, "Come in. Let me tell you what you need to do next, as well as the barrier and array formation around here." Hearing this, the few of them were secretly shocked. There were barriers and formations in this area. How much spiritual energy would that consume? However, he didn't look any different from when he had gone out. If he hadn't said anything, they wouldn't have known that he had gone out to do this. However, what were they going to do next? What was it? With doubts in their hearts, they followed Fengjiu into the cave. When they saw him sit down at the stone table in the cave, they stood to the side and watched him. Fengjiu, who was sitting at the table, looked at them and saw that they were calm, but their expressions revealed their nervousness. Seeing this, she couldn't help but curl her lips into a smile. "From tomorrow onwards, for a month, you'd better train your physical strength. Before that, you're not allowed to leave the barrier and formation here." Chapter 1090. Their physical strength was not bad, but they were probably not up to standard in his eyes, right? Forget it. It was better for him not to ask too much, lest he angered him. To be honest, when he was angry, he clearly didn't scold anyone, nor did he hit anyone, but his slightly darkened expression, slightly pursed lips, and that cold gaze made people's hearts tremble. It was truly frightening. Luo Fei glanced at Ning Lang, then smiled ingratiatingly at Fengjiu. He asked, "Then what about a month later? What are we going to do in a month?" "I'll tell you after you're done with your current tasks." She glanced at them and instructed, "Everyone, find a large rock that's no less than 50 kilograms and carry it behind your back. Every day, you'll squat and jump around the boundary. I'll let Tunyon keep an eye on you. If anyone slacks off," her voice paused and the corners of her lips curled up slightly, "I think it's best if you don't sneak up on me. Otherwise, my punishment will make you tremble in fear." Hearing this, a chill ran down their spines. They only felt that Fengjiu, who had started talking about training them, had changed completely after entering this place. Originally, he had chatted and laughed with them along the way as if they were friends. At this moment, he was showing the boldness and dignity of a teacher, letting them know that if they disobeyed his instructions, the punishment would definitely make them tremble in fear. Needless to say, just listening to him here was enough to make them feel uneasy. How could they dare to have any other ideas? Therefore, after he gave them some instructions they were chased out. This was because only he could live in the cave abode. As for the others, they had to find a way to make do outside. "How about this? We'll build a wooden house here. It'll be more convenient for all of us to live together. Moreover, if we work together, it'll definitely be faster," Luo Fei suggested, his eyes full of eagerness and excitement. We won't be here for a day or two. I reckon we'll be here for at least a few months. It's better not to use a tent or anything. Let's work together and build a small wooden house here first. However, it has to be at least 50 meters away from Fengjiu." Hearing this, their gazes landed on Duan Yi. Why do we have to be at least 50 meters away? Didn't he say it earlier? He wanted to refine medicine. Let's build a log cabin upwind. Let's go chop down some trees and find some grass to build the hut before it gets dark. All right. The few of them responded and quickly divided up the work. They began to set up a wooden house at a location slightly above Fengjiu's Immortal's Cave. After the few of them were exhausted, the simple wooden house was also completed. Looking at his work, although it was simple and ugly, at least it could be lived in, he was already very happy. "Let's go look for stones." Fengjiu said at least 25 caddies. "I took a look earlier, and there's some over there." As Duan Yi spoke, he pointed to a place not too far away. It happened to be at the foot of the mountain. He had taken a look earlier and saw that there were quite a few large rocks below that place. "Let's go." As they spoke, they walked over together. Each of them carried a large stone and placed it in front of the wooden house. Thinking that there were barriers and formations in this area, they felt at ease and rested inside the wooden house. Chapter 1091. When they came outside, they saw that Fengjiu was already waiting for them. So, they carried the stones and went forward. "Fengjiu, do you think the stones we brought back are okay?" Each of them carried a large stone in their arms, about 50 pounds. Fengjiu glanced at them and nodded. "And let's start. Carry the stones behind your back, squat, and jump around this area for half a month. Then run around this area for half a month." As soon as her voice fell, she looked at Tunyon. "Keep an eye on them. If they don't do it, or if they are lazy, just bite them. Don't kill them. If they are injured, you could treat them." "Ayo," Tunyon responded, squatting on the grass and staring at them with a grin. When they heard his words, except for Luo Fei, who did not know that Tunyon was a divine beast, the others felt their scalps go numb. In the following month, Fengjiu handed them over to Tunyon to keep an eye on, while he set up an enchantment outside the cave and began to refine pills inside. From this day onwards, the few of them could hear the rumbling sounds coming from the cave, and sometimes lightning would strike down for the sky. At first, Luo Fei did not know that Fengjiu was the ghost doctor, but after asking Duan Yi and the others, he found out that he was the ghost doctor. Although he was a spy in the academy, and someone had reported to him, he only knew that Fengjiu came from a 6-star academy, but he did not know that he had such an amazing identity. No wonder Duan Yi and the others followed him so easily. following the ghost doctor for a year, this was a good thing that others could not ask for. They squatted and jumped around with the stones for half a month, and at first, they could not hold on for more than 2 hours before they ran out of strength and found it difficult to breathe. But Tunyon really did not give them any face, and when he heard Fengjiu's words, he really showed his sharp teeth to them, scaring them so much that they could only grit their teeth and continue to hold on. Until half a month later, their physical strength gradually improved. Even if they were to carry the 25-kilogram stone and squat and jump around for the entire morning, they would not rest even once. However, because half a month was up, they began to run. They still carried the stone and ran. This run took them another half a month. Inside, they seemed to be isolated from the outside world. Perhaps it was due to the effect of Fengjiu's boundary and formation, but the people outside, as well as the fierce beasts outside, had never entered this place. It was so peaceful that they even forgot that they were in the Helm Mountain range. When the 1-month deadline was up, Fengjiu, who had not come out of the cave for a month, finally came out. She was still wearing that dazzling red robe, clean as before, without any damage, and also without any mess. People who saw her couldn't help but wonder if she had really been refining pills in the cave all this time. Looking at her appearance, it was as if she had rested in the cave for a whole month, without the slightest bit of haggard or fatigue. She still had the same appearance as before, and her clear eyes contained a fierce look. Although they were curious in their hearts, they did not dare to ask him. God knows, they were shocked by the imposing aura of a teacher that he had brought out, and instinctively felt a trace of fear in their hearts. How could they dare to ask him about his matters? Seeing Fengjiu come out, Tunyon happily came to her side and squatted down. Her appearance was very obedient, without even the slightest bit of the ferocious look that she had when she was chasing after them. Chapter 1092. A month's time is up. From your bodies, I can see that your training has been effective. Their bodies had obviously become stronger. The 16 or 17-year-old youths seemed to have grown half a head taller after a month. She was very satisfied. Fengjiu, what do we do next? Luo Fei asked with a smile. Hearing Luo Fei's question, the others waited for him to continue. A month ago, he said that he would talk about what happened a month later. Then, today was the time. From tomorrow onwards, for 10 days, you will go out of the barrier into the forest to train. You will kill beasts and dig for beast crystals. The amount of beast crystals in 10 days cannot be less than 100. Also, you will count every 10 days. The person with the least amount of beast crystals will be severely punished. In addition, everyone will have to give half of their beast crystals to me. As for the person with the least amount of beast crystals, he will have to give the remaining one to the person with the most as a reward. Hearing his words, the others opened their mouths but didn't say anything. They looked at each other and gritted their teeth. In the end, they could only nod their heads. We understand. Their hearts were already secretly nervous, especially Ninglang. He who loved money like his life was already thinking about how to win out of the other three. Even if he didn't win, he might not be the one who fell behind. Otherwise, it would be too much of a loss. Fengjiu's gaze swept across the few of them and asked, "Do you have any objections? If you do, say it now. Don't mention it later." "No." The few of them shook their heads and said. Seeing this, Fengjiu then threw out 4 small bottles. This is medicine that can treat internal and external injuries. Take the pills orally to treat internal injuries. Crush it and sprinkle it on the wound to stop bleeding. Hearing this, the few of them's eyes lit up. They took the bottles and opened them to take a look. One had to know that a bottle of the ghost doctor's medicine was extremely expensive. Some of it couldn't even be bought with money. They didn't expect that she would bring them here to train, protect their safety, and even give them pills. This really made them very surprised and pleasantly surprised. "All right, don't bother me if there's nothing important. If you encounter any trouble or danger that you can't handle, you can ask me for help." She tossed a few jade tubes to them. "Just stay in this area. Don't go too far." "Got it," they answered happily and carefully put away the things he gave them. After giving his instructions, Fengjiu did not return to the Immortal's cave. Instead, he walked out of the barrier. When they saw this, they looked at each other and hurriedly asked, "Are you going out?" "Yes, I'm going out to do some exercise and look for some spiritual herbs," she said without turning her head. Hearing this, the few people behind him hurriedly followed up. "We'll go with you. What kind of spirit herbs are you looking for? We can still help." "No need. Just take care of yourselves." She waved her hand and walked outside. Not long after, she disappeared from their sight. When Fengjiu's figure was out of sight, they paused for a moment before Ning Lang asked, "What should we do? Were they going to train separately or in pairs? Are you guys confident in splitting up?" Duan Yi looked at the three of them and asked, "We should be able to. If we encounter something that we can't handle, we'll just escape," Luo Fei said. He felt that it was better to split up. This way, everyone would get different beast crystals. Chapter 1093. Ning Lang also nodded. "I also think that it's better to be in a group of two. This way, we can take care of each other. Moreover, if we kill our own people, there won't be any conflicts in the beast crystals we get. On the contrary, if we really encounter any danger that we can't handle, the two of us can take care of each other." Duan Yi nodded. "That's good too. Then let's go with the group that Fengjiu originally arranged for us. Luo Fei and I will be in a group, and the two of you will be in a group." Luo Fei shrugged his shoulders. "All right, I don't care if it's one or two people. Since Fengjiu has gone out, let's not wait for tomorrow. Let's go." Ning Lang indicated that he planned to follow them out of the boundary and into the forest. Although they were only training their physical strength, at this moment, he really wanted to test his own fighting strength. "All right, let's go." The few of them left as soon as they said they would, and they really went out together. Seeing this, Tunyon thought for a while and followed behind them, taking on the responsibility of guarding them. After leaving the boundary, Fengjiu took out a map and looked at it. There was an area that was listed as a dangerous area. The danger level was several times higher than this place. It was indicated that it was a place where ferocious beasts often gathered. Other than that, there were also many precious spiritual herbs. Therefore, after keeping the map, she walked towards this area. With her strength, she was confident that she could come and go as she pleased. Walking towards that area, she walked for about 4 hours. As she walked, she saw poisonous snakes appear from time to time, and those poisonous snakes tried to stop her from moving forward. She couldn't help but feel surprised. Feeling that those snakes wanted to stop her from moving forward, she became more and more curious. Therefore, she walked all the way until she passed through a fog. Just as she walked through the fog, she heard a hissing sound. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Her divine sense swept out and landed on a strangely shaped wild fruit tree not far in front of her. A trace of surprise appeared in her eyes. It was a fruit tree about 4 or 5 meters tall. What surprised her was that from afar, this fruit tree did not grow on the ground, but was placed in a vase. This was because the shape of the tree was that of a vase. Further up, the tree was in full bloom. Just looking at it like this, it was really very strange. Moreover, there were no wild fruit trees in this area. There was only one here, and it had a strange shape. There was a fog around this strange fruit tree, as if it was hiding the fruit tree. It was also because of the fog and the remoteness of this place that if she hadn't sensed the snakes trying to stop her from approaching and came over to take a look out of curiosity, she really wouldn't have discovered such a strange fruit tree. What surprised her even more was that under the fruit tree, there was a nest of colorful poisonous snakes coiled there. There were at least a few hundred poisonous snakes of different sizes. At this moment, some of them were sticking their heads out and hissing, and some of them had discovered her and were running towards her. Seeing this, her eyes were slightly surprised. She once again looked at the fruit tree that she had thought was a wild fruit tree. She saw that between the lush leaves, she could faintly see a few fist-sized green fruits swaying between the branches. It was even more eye-catching. Chapter 1094. This is a spirit fruit? Her eyes lit up. No wonder there were so many poisonous snakes guarding this bottle of fruit. So it was a spirit fruit. But what kind of spirit fruit was this? Why hadn't she seen it before? Her heart was filled with doubts. Just as she was about to step forward to take a look, she heard a hissing sound and several poisonous snakes scuttled out. She raised her hand, and a wind blade shot out towards those two snakes. The sharp wind blade was as sharp as a knife. She originally thought that it would be the same as when she walked over, cutting the poisonous snakes into pieces. Who would have thought that when the wind blade landed on the bodies of the poisonous snakes, it actually made a clanging sound? The two snakes were only hit by the wind blade and fell to the ground. There was not a single wound on the bodies of the snakes, and they quickly scurried towards her again. Seeing this, she was slightly surprised and quickly retreated. She felt that it was very strange. How could her wind blade not kill those poisonous snakes? Moreover, it made a clanging sound that was similar to metal. As she retreated, she sized up those poisonous snakes. She saw that the ones that attacked her were only some small and medium snakes. Some of the larger snakes were coiled under the tree. Among them, there was a huge snake that seemed to be the king of this group of snakes. It was about as thick as a man's arm, and its body was about 3 meters long. At this moment, it was coiled around the bottle tree. It stuck out its head and spat out its scarlet tongue to stare at her. Is this a threat? She raised her eyebrows and looked at the snake king that was hissing and spitting out its tongue. It was using those vicious and bloodthirsty snake eyes to stare at her. She was thinking in her heart, these snakes should belong to the metal attribute and couldn't be killed by swords and knives. Then, what if it was the realgar that snakes were afraid of? Thinking of this, she took out a bottle of realgar from her space and unscrewed the cap before throwing it towards the group of snakes. However, when the realgar fell into the group of snakes, she couldn't help but blink her eyes. It actually didn't have any effect. Those snakes were still coiled there and didn't escape at all. It was as if they didn't feel the smell of the realgar. Seeing this, she touched her chin and her eyes slightly moved. Realgar was useless? How could it be useless? Normally, no matter what kind of poisonous snake it was, it wouldn't be able to withstand the smell of realgar. Realgar was the natural nemesis of snakes. However, the situation in front of her made her unable to think about it. Her gaze turned and landed on the bottle tree. Maybe these poisonous snakes weren't afraid of swords and realgar. They were always coming out from this strange bottle tree. It seemed that she needed to find out what kind of spirit tree it was. So that these snakes were unwilling to leave? Realgar and swords and knives couldn't hurt these snakes then. What about poison? With this thought in mind, she leaped into the air and went to a place far away from the bottle tree to set up a barrier to prevent the snakes from coming in. Then, she took out a pill furnace from her space and picked out some herbs to prepare. Only after she had mixed more than 20 herbs and spiritual medicines did she flip her palm and ignite the pill furnace. Flames sprang up from the bottom of the pill furnace with a whoosh. Only when the temperature in the furnace was about right did she add in the herbs she had prepared. About an hour later, the 20 or so herbs were mixed in the furnace. Traces of medicinal fragrance filled the air, and she couldn't help but think. Those snakes had become different because of those unknown spirit fruit trees. After her furnace of pills was formed, would they be able to achieve the effect she wanted? Chapter 1095. She thought that this furnace of pills would be ready in about 4 to 6 hours, but who knew that after the pills were melted, there would be rumbling sounds coming from the furnace from time to time. The temperature of the entire furnace continued to burn, causing the furnace to turn red. Fengjiu, who had never encountered such a situation before, felt her heart tighten. Is the furnace going to explode? Or is it going to refine this furnace? I only added a little more tripterigium vine than the snake fish grass and earthfire sparks. Why is it still like this? She muttered, her eyes filled with confusion. Looking at the red-hot furnace, she couldn't help but take a step back. In the past, when the furnace exploded, it would directly explode, but this time, the entire furnace had turned red and still hadn't exploded. What she was worried about was that this pill furnace was not the best one, because she thought that this pill was only a 5th level pill and below, any random pill furnace would be enough. Who would have thought that adding too many herbs would result in such a scene? If the furnace exploded, her herbs would really go to waste. But if she wanted to open the furnace now, she couldn't open it before the pill was condensed. She could only watch from the side and prevent it from exploding. This wait lasted until evening. When Fengjiu, who was inside the barrier, saw that the furnace was almost deformed and steam was gushing out, she couldn't help but take a step back. She muttered, "Did I really add too much earth fire sparks? Or did I add too much tripterigium vine? It's going to explode." As soon as her voice fell, she saw a surge of air. She was so shocked that she instantly rushed out of the enchantment and hid far away. The moment she escaped from the enchantment, the furnace of pills behind her exploded with a loud bang. F***CK. Fengjiu was dumbfounded. She looked at the furnace that had exploded with a loud bang and melted into scrap metal and scattered on the ground. A huge black mushroom cloud soared into the sky. Then another one rose from below and bloomed. It stayed in the air for a long time before being blown away by the wind. She didn't notice that when the pill furnace exploded and the mushroom cloud surged, a pitch-black pill flew out with a whoosh and landed near the group of snakes. A small snake smelled the fragrance of the pill and actually slithered forward with hissing sounds, swallowing the pitch-black pill in one gulp. However, after the little snake swallowed the pill, its belly rolled and there seemed to be a stream of air moving inside. Even the snake's body emitted a spirit power aura that carried the scent of the pill. This scene attracted the attention of the other venomous snakes. A snake with a width of 2 fingers and a length of 1 meter quickly rushed forward, opened its mouth, and swallowed the small snake whole. This scene repeated over and over again. The big snakes swallowed the small snakes, and a few of them were fighting with each other as if it was some kind of delicacy. All the snakes in the snake nest rushed out and chased after the snake that swallowed the pill, tried to swallow it. Even the snake king, who was coiled around the bottle spirit tree, raised its head and hissed. Its bloodthirsty and ferocious snake eyes were fixed on the group of snakes that were fighting over the bottle spirit tree. When Fengjiu withdrew her gaze from the mushroom cloud in the sky, she couldn't help but sigh. Does this mean I have to refine it again? Chapter 1096. What's going on? Why is it so chaotic? In the nest of snakes under the bottle spirit tree, other than the snake king that was still tightly wrapped around the tree, the rest of the snakes had all rushed out and were entangled together a few meters away from the bottle spirit tree. Puzzled, she leaped a little closer. When she was a few meters away, she couldn't help but be startled when she smelled the medicinal fragrance in the air. Isn't this the smell of the snake grass? She was stunned as she stared at the snakes fighting over the fruit. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Could it be that the pill has been formed? There's no mistake. This is the smell of the snake grass. Ha 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 ha. She suddenly laughed out loud as she happily watched the snakes fighting over the fruit. She watched as the small snake was swallowed by the big snake, and watched as the big snakes fought over the fruit, biting and entangling with each other. Fight, fight. It would be best if the big snake also came out to fight over the fruit. Then, as long as she could catch it off guard and get close to the bottle tree, she could instantly move the entire tree into the spatial spirit field and plant it there. Then, she could slowly study what kind of spirit fruit it was. She made up her mind. In order to lure the Snake King out, she hid under the cover of the darkening sky. She concealed her aura and merged with the tree. She watched the snake from the dark as it looked around. It stared at the place where she was standing before and observed its surroundings for a while. Then it gradually loosened its grip and moved forward. It didn't move very quickly, or rather, it was still worried about leaving the spirit tree. Therefore, even though its 3-meter-long snake body moved forward, its tail was still hooked to the tree trunk. However, the group of snakes walked further and further away as they fought. They had actually walked more than 5 meters away. If it wanted to fight, it would have to leave the big tree. Therefore, After the snake's head darted 2 to 3 meters away, it looked back and stared at the unripe fruit on the spirit tree. Its ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes scanned the surroundings again before it suddenly darted out. Its speed was extremely fast. With a swoosh, the snake's body suddenly shot out. The snake's mouth opened to the back of its head. The originally small snake's mouth was now large enough to swallow an adult rabbit. Just as it leaped out and stared at the big snake, it opened its mouth to bite the big snake's head and swallow it into its stomach. Fengjiu had already leaped out from behind the snake and arrived under the bottle spirit tree. There was not a single snake in the snake's nest under the tree. They had all rushed to fight for the pill. Therefore, she arrived under the tree without any hindrance. She placed her hand on the tree trunk as she watched the Snake King. The spiritual power in her body surged, and a wave of spiritual power condensed in her palm, forming a line with her divine sense. Along with her clear shout, "Withdraw!" The bottle spirit tree that was deep underground turned into a ray of light. It disappeared on the spot, on the tree, on the spot. The Snake King, who was in the middle of swallowing the big snake, suddenly turned around and saw that the bottle spirit tree had been taken by Fengjiu. In an instant, its bloodthirsty and ferocious snake eyes turned red and it hissed. Chapter 1097. Seeing this scene, Fengjiu quickly retreated and grinned. Once something is in my hands, no one can take it away from me, let alone a snake like you. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already retreated several meters away. Bang! The Snake King was enraged. As it spat out its tongue, it shot out a stream of saliva from its mouth. The saliva shot several meters away and headed straight for Fengjiu. However, it was not faster than Fengjiu's speed and landed more than a meter behind her. F***CK. So poisonous. Fengjiu turned around to take a look. She saw that the saliva shot to the ground and directly melted a hole in the ground, making a sizzling sound. The saliva splashed onto the grass and trees, causing them to wither and lose all signs of life. She stared at it with wide eyes. Originally, she still had some intentions of teasing it. However, after seeing this, she was in trouble. The Snake King itself was a sacred beast. Although it could not speak, it had already developed spiritual intelligence. Now that it saw that she had taken the spiritual fruit tree, it would definitely chase after her. Chasing after it was one thing. With her speed, she was confident that the snake would not be able to catch up to her. The problem was that the venom it spat out could shoot several meters away. Moreover, it was extremely poisonous. If she was not careful, she would be in trouble. However, she was puzzled. She turned around to take a look. The Snake King had swallowed the big snake that ate her pill, but it did not explode and die. One had to know that she had added quite a bit of poison into that pill. There was also Trichterigium vine, earth fire flower, and snake-smelling grass. Although those things had a fatal temptation that snakes could not resist, they were still not good things. But why did the snake not feel any discomfort after eating it? Instead, it looked like it had become thicker. She was sure that she did not see wrongly. The snake was originally as thick as a man's arm. However, looking at it now, the snake's body had at least doubled in size. Moreover, the layer of snake skin on the snake's body seemed to be faintly changing color. What was the reason for this? Even if her poison pill had been neutralized by them using poison to fight poison, it should not have not hurt them at all. Instead, it should have become stronger, right? Bang! She watched as the snake's tail slammed heavily on the ground, causing a crack to appear on the ground. The trees in the forest that were blocking its path all fell to the side as the Snake King swung its tail. That destructive energy caused her to involuntarily increase her speed and rush forward, giving chase to the Snake King behind her. What made Fengjiu's scalp numb was that in this forest, the Snake King's hissing. Everywhere it passed, some of the poisonous snakes in the forest joined the group. They actually followed behind the Snake King, forming a snake army that chased after Fengjiu in front. Seeing the large group of colorful poisonous snakes behind her, She sucked in a breath of cold air. Hiss! If I... The red figure flashed and increased her speed again. Her figure swept through the forest like a ghost, gradually pulling away from the snake army behind her. As the sky gradually darkened, the forest faintly emitted heavy, banging sounds, as well as the hissing of the poisonous snakes. The noise was so loud that some of the ferocious beasts in the forest could not help but quickly avoid it. Chapter 1098. The next morning, somewhere in this area, a group of rogue cultivators was resting in the forest. This group of people was the one who had a grudge with Fungio's group when they were crossing the cliff. Although they had been tricked by Fungio, fortunately, it was not fatal. Fungio had only taught them a lesson at that time, and also made them do some tricks because they could not catch up with them. These people came later. Ever since they came here, they had been looking for traces of Fungio's group. They wanted to kill them to vent their anger. However, they had been here for almost a month, but they still had not seen Fungio's group. Boss, maybe those brats had been killed in here long ago, or they were dragged away by fierce beasts. They can't be alive now. Otherwise, it would be impossible for us to not see them after coming here for almost a month. Those brats are quite capable. They can't die so quickly. Moreover, if they were killed, we can't kill them personally to vent our anger. Therefore, I still hope that they are still alive. This way, when they fall into our hands, they will suffer a fate worse than death. Two burly men sat under a tree and talked. One of them had a gloomy face. When he talked about Fungio's group, his whole body was full of gloomy, murderous intent. They had been traveling for so long. It was one thing to fall into the hands of others, but to fall into the hands of those brats, just thinking about it made them want to vent their anger. They can't have gone far. They should be in this area. I don't believe that we can't find them in this area after almost a month. His gaze was gloomy as he clenched his fists tightly. As long as they fall into my hands, I will let them know that death is an extravagant hope. Boss, don't worry. I will ask my brothers to keep an eye out. As the burly man spoke, his expression suddenly changed. The peak golden elixir realm cultivator saw that his expression was not right and asked, "What's wrong?" The burly man did not speak. Instead, he bent over on the ground and listened carefully. Not long after, he stood up and said, "Boss, something is wrong. It seems like something is coming this way. It is still a little far from here. From the sound, it is estimated to be 1,000 meters away, but it is moving very fast. Coming this way? What is it? Ferocious beasts?" The peak golden core cultivator asked. "It's the sound of running footsteps and the sound of heavy collisions. It's still too far away, so I can only hear this. I can't tell what's making the sound of collisions," the big man said with a serious face. He asked, "Boss, should we hide?" The rogue cultivator at the peak of the gold core realm nodded after hearing this. "Since you can't tell what it is, then let's avoid it for the time being. Tell the brothers to avoid it first." "Yes," the burly man responded and shouted. He quickly retreated to the other side with his men. However, the rogue cultivator at the peak of the gold core stage didn't retreat too far. Instead, he asked everyone to retreat and hide well, waiting to see who exactly was coming, or a ferocious beast. Thus, when they retracted their auras and hid to the side, they waited for a while. When they saw the red figure approaching from afar, the peak golden core cultivator in the lead was startled and somewhat astonished. Why does that figure look so familiar? Chapter 1099. Seeing the red figure gradually approaching, the peak stage golden core rogue cultivator's eyes turned gloomy. He suddenly raised his head and laughed out loud. "Ha ha 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 ha! It's really effortless. As expected, that red-robed brat has delivered himself to our doorstep." Hearing his words, the cultivators behind rushed out and blocked the front, trying to block Fungio, who was flying towards them. Fungio had been running since last night, and the snakes behind her had been following her. If she hadn't had medicine to replenish her strength, she probably wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. Hence, When she saw the rogue cultivators in front of her, she couldn't help but be stunned. They looked a little familiar. Were they the rogue cultivators she met at the cliff? When she remembered who these people were, she saw that they were holding swords in their hands and had a murderous look on their faces. She couldn't help but grin and waved at them happily. As she ran towards them, she shouted loudly, "It's you guys. Ha ha! You're really full of ape dung." The rogue cultivators were stunned. When they saw the red-robed youth running towards them with a grin on his face, they were puzzled. Could it be that he doesn't remember them anymore? Did he forget that they had a grudge against each other? Otherwise, why would he run towards them with a murderous look on his face when he saw them holding sword in their hands and running towards them excitedly? Bang! Suddenly, a loud bang came from behind, startling the rogue cultivators. Then they heard a hissing sound. They were stunned and quickly looked behind the red-robed youth. When they saw what was behind him, their faces instantly turned pale. Damn it! What's that? A snake horde? What the hell is this damned brat doing? Why did he provoke so many snakes? Run. The giant snake in front is a sacred beast-level beast. If we don't run, we'll become their snack. Damn it! That brat tricked us. He's trying to kill us. Those rogue cultivators sucked in cold breaths and cursed angrily. Then they turned and ran away. How could they still bother to find trouble with Fungio? Even the leading rogue cultivator at the peak of the Gold Core realm turned pale with fright at this time. He glared at Fungio angrily and resentfully, gritted his teeth and shouted, "Boy, don't come to us. Run further away. Get lost." However, Fungio grinned and ran in their direction, shouting, "Wait for me. Don't run too fast. Wait for me." The rogue cultivators looked back and saw the red-clothed young man waving his hand and grinning as he ran towards them. About 100 meters behind him, there was a large group of venomous snakes of various sizes and colors. There were at least 1,000 of them. The most frightening thing was the giant snake in front of them. Just looking at it gave them goosebumps, and they were terrified. Immediately, the rogue cultivators began to curse. "Damn brat! Don't follow us! Don't follow us! Go further away! Don't follow us! The snake horde followed you here. Don't attract the snake horde. Go away! Go away!" Chapter 1100. However, she quickly caught up from behind and ran into the group of rogue cultivators. She grinned at them. "I didn't expect to see you guys here. I'm so happy. You guys have to run faster. Otherwise, the snakes behind us will catch up. Damn it! Get lost." A rogue cultivator cursed angrily. He slashed his sword at Fungio with murderous intent. Fungio's eyes flashed. She smiled and said, "Don't use your sword. I don't like to use my sword. However, since you want to practice, I can help you." As soon as she finished speaking, she flicked her sleeve as she dodged. A wave of spiritual power visible to the naked, I surged out and pushed the rogue cultivator back more than 10 meters. "Ah!" The rogue cultivator cried out in alarm. Due to the force, he was pushed back more than 10 meters. In addition, he couldn't stabilize his steps and stopped at that moment instead of moving forward. Therefore, after he fell back for more than 10 meters, the group of snakes behind him had already surged forward. Hiss, hiss, hiss. The sound of a venomous snake hissing could be heard. The rogue cultivator was shocked. He looked back and screamed, "Ah! Save me! Save me!" Behind him, the group of snakes surged forward. They were less than 10 meters behind him. The Snake King opened its mouth and spat out a stream of venom. When the venom splashed on the ground, it made sizzling sounds and corroded the ground. It clearly didn't splash on the vagrant cultivator, but the vagrant cultivator was so frightened that he let out a shrill scream. His legs went weak, and he staggered. His footsteps slowed down, and he was swallowed by the Snake King behind him in one bite. Kacha! The sound of bones breaking came from behind, accompanied by a scream. Everyone in front of them turned around in shock. When they saw what was happening, their faces turned pale. The upper half of the Middle Foundation Establishment cultivator's body had already been swallowed by the Snake King. The snake's mouth opened and closed, and they could see the sharp, venomous fangs biting into the loose cultivator's body with a crunch, breaking the bones in his waist. The rogue cultivator, who was still struggling, couldn't move. He hung by the Snake King's mouth and was swallowed by it. The snake's body also bulged and shrank as it swallowed the rogue cultivator. Only when the bulge slid down to the snake's stomach did the Snake King return to normal. Its bloody and ferocious snake eyes stared at the rogue cultivators in front of it. It hissed and chased after them. Run, run. The rogue cultivators at the front were shocked by the scene behind them. The aura of death suddenly enveloped them, making them feel frightened and even more shocked. At this moment, a few of the rogue cultivators who were originally running forward together couldn't bear the relentless pursuit of the snakes behind them. They screamed and gave up on running forward. Instead, they fled to the left and right, trying to escape this terrifying land of death. However, right at the moment when they flew out, they let out miserable screams. Chapter 1101. Save me, save me, save. The cry for help did not last long before it went silent. That rogue cultivator was entangled by the snakes that surged up, as if he had fallen into a nest of thousands of venomous snakes. Very quickly, he was bitten until he was dripping with blood, and the flesh on his body was sucked dry. Fengjiu's eyes flashed slightly. These snakes were increasing in number. He did not expect that the Snake King could actually summon so many small snakes to suck its orders. From the initial few hundred snakes to over 1,000 snakes, and now there were nearly 10,000 snakes. This speed of increase was truly frightening. If this continued, then the disaster that would form would be extraordinary. At this moment, she could not help but rejoice. Ever since she was chased by these snakes, she had run into the depths of the mountain range, far away from where Duan Yi and the others were. Otherwise, if they were targeted by these snakes, they would probably be like those rogue cultivators, and not even their bones would be left behind. Damned red-clothed brat. What did you do to those snakes? Why did you let them chase you so relentlessly? At this moment, that golden core rogue cultivator did not have the time to attack Fengjiu, because once they fought, their speed would definitely slow down, and it was very likely that they would be in an extremely dangerous situation. It was also because of this that after seeing the snakes madly chasing them, they only ran for their lives and did not dare to rashly attack. The fate of the loose cultivator from before had already given them a reminder. That loose cultivator was at the middle stage of the Foundation establishment stage, yet he was pushed out by this red-clothed youth with a flick of his sleeve. It was easy to imagine what would happen to them if they made a move. But now, even if they didn't make a move, their current situation wasn't too good. It was even more likely that they would be eaten by these snakes than the red-clothed youth. Looking at the red-clothed youth, who actually ran in front of them so easily and effortlessly, the anger in their hearts rose. They couldn't help but curse out loud again. Damn brat, you want to run away by yourself after attracting the snakes? No way. As soon as the voice fell, a golden core cultivator behind instantly attacked. He felt that the snakes were chasing the red-clothed brat, and if the red-clothed brat was caught by the snakes, perhaps these snakes would no longer madly chase them. Fengjiu dodged to the side and turned around with a grin. You guys should save some strength and wait to escape from the snake's mouth. I won't play with you anymore. As soon as her voice fell, her footsteps changed, and her speed increased again. She actually teleported forward, and it didn't take long for her to disappear without a trace. The rogue cultivators behind her were dumbfounded. No one thought that his speed could be increased again, and no one thought that he would disappear in a flash. Instead, they were placed in front of the group of snakes, being stared at by tens of thousands of pairs of snake eyes, becoming food for the snakes. Damn that red-clothed brat. Get back here. Come back. After recovering from their shock, they screamed in horror and also tried to escape from the snake's mouth to avoid becoming food for those poisonous snakes. However, when the Snake King saw that the red-clothed human who had been chasing it was escaping from its sight at an extremely fast speed, a bloodthirsty killing intent and a strong sense of unwillingness shot out from its eyes, and it madly chased after him again. Therefore, it quickly overtook the rogue cultivators in front of it, but did not devour them. Instead, with a swing of its snake tail, it directly swept the rogue cultivators into the group of snakes behind it, and they were eaten by its descendants. Looking at the fruits hanging between the branches and under the leaves, his eyes flashed. The fruit was the size of a fist and was still green. The shape of the fruit was like a fortune bag, but it was also somewhat similar to a pomegranate. The only difference was that the fruit was divided into 8 pieces by the stripes on the fruit's body. The fruit also emitted a faint spiritual aura, as well as a fragrance. That's strange. It looks like a pomegranate, but it's not a pomegranate. According to the spirit fruits I've seen so far, I don't think there's a spirit fruit like this. She muttered softly and was puzzled. She guessed what kind of spirit fruit this bottle tree bore. Chapter 1103. She came down from the tree and walked to the spiritual spring to water the tree. She told Lao Bai to keep an eye on it, and then went to the fire phoenix. Seeing that it was still inside, she couldn't help but feel strange. Why is it taking so long this time? Is it about to break through and become an adult? Thinking of this possibility, and seeing that the sleeping fire phoenix didn't have any abnormalities, she flashed out of the space. Sitting by the spring, she stretched out her hand and played with the spring water beside her. Her slender white fingers gently brushed across the surface of the water, watching the ripples spread out and then return to normal. After playing for a while, she composed herself and got up to walk into the forest. She had been chased by the Snake King since yesterday, and hadn't been able to find the spiritual herbs properly. It had really wasted a lot of time, and she had run so far away. She was currently researching an elixir and lacked 2 ingredients. She planned to see if there were any in the forest before returning to the cave to refine them. This time, she didn't plan to train herself in the Hell Mountain range. Her purpose here was to bring the few of them to train. After a year, she would go to a first-class country. The golden lantern grass mostly grows in dangerous places, mostly between the mountain walls. However, the bamboo orchid prefers damp places. I should be able to find it in this forest, she muttered as she walked. In this area, there were no venomous snakes chasing after her, no rogue cultivators trying to kill her, and no ferocious beasts appearing. Therefore, she slowed down her pace and carefully searched for the bamboo orchid in the surrounding area. She didn't take care of her space much. Most of the spiritual herbs she planted were precious and rare. She didn't plant some of the less rare ones. First, she thought that if she needed them, it would be convenient to buy them. Second, she couldn't take care of so many spiritual herbs in her space. She could just plant some rare ones. If she lacked other herbs, she could get them through other methods. However, in this way, she had to spend time looking for 1 or 2 spiritual herbs. Fortunately, these 2 spiritual herbs weren't difficult to find. After walking in the forest for about 2 hours, she found the bamboo orchid in the weeds under a damp tree. The bamboo orchid was like a wildflower in the forest. It had 3 small purple flowers, and its stem was like a bamboo, with a few leaves hanging down. It was not very eye-catching in the weeds. If it was someone who didn't know what it was, they would think that it was a wildflower. However, those who were proficient in medicine would be able to tell at a glance that it was a bamboo orchid. There were several types of pills that could be used in medicine, and its effects were miraculous. A good spirit herb must be whole, because it had to be picked very carefully. Especially for this kind of bamboo orchid, its roots were relatively thin and deep in the soil. If the roots were accidentally broken, the medicinal strength would be reduced, and the medicinal efficacy would be greatly reduced. Therefore, after discovering this bamboo orchid, Fengjiu squatted under the tree and slowly dug. Bit by bit, he pushed away the soil and carefully exposed every single root. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, she dug out the bamboo orchid. She held it in her hand and looked at it. She was very satisfied. Not bad. This bamboo orchid is almost 100 years old. I think it will be very effective when used in medicine. Chapter 1104. Leave that bamboo orchid for me. The sudden voice startled Fengjiu. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a middle-aged man in his 30s. He was thin and had a gloomy aura. Behind him were 3 cultivators at the peak of the golden elixir realm and 1 at the beginning stage of the nascent soul realm. Fengjiu had already put away the box. Those people thought he was just putting it into his chinquin bag and didn't think much of it. But at this moment, they were eyeing the bamboo orchid. I picked it. If you want it, can't you find it yourselves? She raised her eyebrows. The bamboo orchid wasn't something that couldn't be found. Why would they want it from her? Just hand it over. The golden elixir realm cultivator behind him shouted and glared at Fengjiu. Fengjiu curled his lips and glanced at the golden elixir realm cultivator. Give me the chinquin bag at your waist, and I'll consider giving you the bamboo orchid. They wanted to take something from her for free? Was there such a good deal? You're courting death. They started fighting without saying anything. The golden elixir realm cultivator shouted. He wanted to test Fengjiu's strength. After all, they didn't think that anyone who could enter this place was a pushover. However, what they didn't expect was that just as the golden core cultivator was about to make his move, the red-clothed youth, who previously had a fearless expression on his face, actually cried out in panic. Murder! Robbery! The young man broke into a run, but he was actually running towards them. Somehow, he brushed past them, and they didn't even have time to stop him. They saw him run 100 meters away. Damn it! He stole our chinquin bags. The nascent soul realm cultivator cursed, and was the first to turn and chase after Fengjiu. The few people behind him also looked down after being reminded by the nascent soul realm cultivator. Their faces darkened. The chinquin bags at their waist were gone. Their waists were empty. Thinking of the treasures in their bags, they gritted their teeth and quickly chased after the red-robed youth. Originally, he had planned to rob the bamboo orchid that the red-clothed youth had picked. After all, such robberies were very common here. There were no moral constraints here, only the strong and the weak. Strong people could rob things from others and even kill people. For this point, it had already become a tacit agreement. Even some aristocratic families would form teams to travel in this place. Firstly, it was to prevent being targeted. Secondly, it was to ensure that they had the strength to compete for any good items that they found. But they didn't expect that the red-robed youth, whom they were eyeing, would dare to steal their chinquin bags in front of them. When they thought about how their chinquin bags had been snatched away by a red-clothed brat who was not even 20 years old, their desire to kill grew even stronger. That brat better not let them catch him. Feng 9, who had run away after getting their chinquin bags, was now smiling with narrowed eyes. She didn't check what was in the chinquin bags and just ran away to let the people behind her chase her. You want to steal my things? Then I'll steal theirs first. Let's see if they still dare to have any ideas about me. Stop! Brat, stop right there. Chapter 1105. Fengjiu moved forward with ease. Her footsteps changed in a strange way. She moved in an instant and effortlessly distanced herself from the people behind her. When she heard the angry shouts coming from behind, she looked back and smiled. Didn't you want to steal my spiritual herbs? Stop me if you can. Hearing this, the people behind her almost vomited blood in anger. It was true that they wanted to steal his spiritual herbs, but who would have thought that he would steal them in the end? This young man was running and shouting that he was going to steal their things. He was clearly the one who stole their chinquin bag, but he made it seem like they were the ones who stole it from him. How infuriating! What angered them the most was that they didn't know what footwork this young man had learned, but he was so fast that they couldn't catch up. At this moment, they didn't think of another possibility, which was that this young man's strength was unfathomable. On the contrary, all they could think of was who didn't have 1 or 2 life-saving skills or treasures. Otherwise, who would dare to enter the Hell Mountain range so easily? Stop! Stop right there. Leave the things behind, and I promise I won't beat you to death." Hearing this, Fengjiu was amused. She turned around and laughed, shouting at them. Only idiots would stop. You'd better save your words for a ghost. How could she believe such words? What a joke. Even if she believed them, it wouldn't be easy to take back the things in her hands. Furthermore, these people were obviously trying to kill her. It was already good enough that she didn't use underhanded methods on them. A group of heretic cultivators who specialized in stealing other people's treasures in this area stopped when they heard the sound echoing in the forest. They looked around. There's movement. Check where it's coming from, the leader said and signaled his subordinates to check. Because the sound echoed in the forest, they could only vaguely hear it and couldn't confirm where it was coming from. Yes, the heretic cultivators below responded. They quickly ran 10 meters away and lay on the ground in all 4 directions to listen for movement. The sound on the ground was much clearer than the sound in the forest. Not long after, a few of them quickly returned and reported, "Leader, there are people running towards here from the southwest. They should be chasing after us to steal our treasures, but we only heard a few footsteps." Only a few people. The evil cultivator leader's eyes flashed with greed. "Then we'll wait for them halfway. Once we kill them, we'll share the treasures with our brothers." All right. Hearing that, more than 30 evil cultivators responded excitedly. Under the lead of their leader, they walked in that direction, intending to surround that person. Not far from here, the nascent soul cultivator had been chasing after Fengjiu for half a day, but he still hadn't caught up to him. The anger in his heart was about to explode, and his killing intent and nascent soul aura filled the air. He couldn't wait to wring the neck of the red-robed brat in front of him. The most hateful thing was that he, a nascent soul cultivator, couldn't even catch up to a red-robed kid. Behind them, the 3-peak gene dance stage cultivators were the same. Their expressions were filled with anger and killing intent. The 3 of them had a chase after the thin middle-aged man because the middle-aged man was an alchemist. He could refine pills, but his speed and fighting skills were lacking. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.